Nen Show Podcast, your bi-monthly escape from the crushing workload of reality. I am your host, Craftsdwarf, and this is my co-host, Mathwiz.
Did I mishear that? Did you just say bi-monthly? Do we only upload every other month?
Wait, fuck. I don't know what these words... Well, bi-weekly can mean, like, once, like, twice a week.
Oh, like twice a week.
Why did I say bi-monthly? Just shoot me. Just shoot me, Mathwiz. Just take a gun and shoot me. I ruined it. I ruined everything.
But it's okay, because we're talking about One Piece, so if I shoot you, you won't actually die.
Yeah, this is... Oh, I see where this is going. You had to go there. No, it's fine. Alright, so, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say words, and the words were going to come out of my mouth. Fuck. I'm tired, Mathwiz. Alright, comments. I don't have any because I didn't read them. I'm sorry, all you guys who put in all the effort to make those comments last episode. I didn't read them. I'm sorry. Do you have any, Mathwiz?
Well, I know that there was a good comment in here. I actually think there were two, but I forget who did the second one. So I'll just look at the one that I have in front of me by ZMod155. In regards to the bar scene with Luffy and I already forget his name, but the guy who was in the last stretch of chapters.
Bellamy the hyena, yeah.
Yeah, Bellamy. And like how basically this person said that the bar scene between Bellamy and Luffy was kind of like a callback to the bar scene in chapter 1 with Shanks and Luffy, and it's to show like, look at how Luffy's grown, because like in chapter 1, Shanks' crew, like they were getting mocked and like, you know, beaten up or whatever, but they weren't fighting back. And then, you know, later on they did and showed like, hey, we're actually like strong dudes and we don't waste time on people who aren't worth it or whatever. And like that's kind of what Luffy did with Bellamy.
Well, and now he's like, last time it was like, Shanks, you're not a real man, but now he is the real man. So yeah, it's cool. I mean, yeah. What was the other one? Do you remember? Or
someone Wyatt Moon was asking me, have I seen the One Piece anime, or how much of the One Piece anime have I seen? The answer is pretty much nothing. Like, I've seen a couple of scenes.
Yeah, clips of it, like individual scenes on YouTube and clips of it in like other videos probably.
But like, I've mainly only looked up anything One Piece related since like we started the podcast. So, I mean, like, I've seen the occasional video which would like mention One Piece, or I feel like I probably watched a couple One Piece centric videos, but
I'm sure. I mean, Best Guy Ever, Super Hatchwolf, you know, YouTubers you like who have done content. YouTubers who've done content on One Piece. So yeah.
The funny thing is, I'm pretty sure that I watched your Skypiea video way back when you first made it, and I forget what was in it because it's been like a year or whatever since then.
Well, that's fine because I get to go over it again.
Yeah, because I don't remember.
I think there are spoilers in it, so you can't even watch it. Because I reference, like, I talk about the idea of tradition, and I mention deaths, like funerals, and I post there's a funeral that happens after Skypiea that I can't, that's a spoiler, so I can't even say, hey, we finished Skypiea, go watch my Skypiea video, because there's spoilers from beyond Skypiea in it, so, whoops. I haven't double checked that, but, I'm just warning you, if anyone wants to go watch the video, possible spoilers for Beyond Skypiea. So yeah, I cut you off there. You were talking.
I don't remember what I was saying. So yeah, that does it. There was also one more. I want to give props to the person who won the comment section for last week. The final antagonist of One Piece is Panda Man. There was also an interesting reply. It was Pan D Ammon or whatever. So watch out for Panda Man.
The secret. See, ever since like Goldie Roger, people have just been like taking care. Like, I think there were some early fake scanlations, or not even fake, just ones like people being dicks. Where, because with Whitebeard, I think they gave his name as Edward Newgate, so obviously Edward D. Newgate, which made people think he was something he wasn't. Like, he's not a D, but people, they just, like, because you could just, and then there's real life ones, like Theodore D. Roosevelt, or Franklin D. Roosevelt. He's a D, it's real. In real life. Yeah. I don't know how many of our commenters have D initials. I wonder, in the middle. So yeah, sorry I don't have comments. I will actually try to read them next time.
Wait a minute,
I wasn't able to get around to it.
Craftsdwarf?
Oh no.
Craftsdwarf, the real master of the One Piece?
It was me the whole time. I don't know. So let's get into discussion. Well, I guess before we start, I guess we can talk about the Wapol cover story now because it's over. So to summarize, Wapol, he got knocked off onto some random island. He started doing Wapol things, eating shit. And then he got arrested, and then he got depression because he realized that he's not a king anymore. He's a worthless sack of shit without his title. And then in his depression, he like eventually just starts making toys. A scientist discovers that the toys are made of an amazing metal, and he becomes this CEO of a giant corporation. So he's basically a king again.
He becomes a fucking capitalist. That coward.
Yep. Well, it's like he's like a piece of shit, and then he just becomes slightly less of a piece of shit, and now he's back to being a piece of shit again. Well, I kind of like how he's like modest at first. Like he's like, oh, okay, I'm a like, and then at the like last page, he's like, I'm a big bitch again. Fuck you. So yeah. Will he come into the story? Because I will confirm there are cover stories that do not come back to the main story, or rather haven't yet, and are kind of unlikely to. I won't say, and we did start the Ace one, but we'll talk about that next time, I suppose. It's almost over. It was weird because it's like
Ace will never come back in the story. Ace is done. That's it.
Yeah, the cover story's it. I'll summarize it next time because it's literally like one or two cover pages away from ending. Like it ends right at the start of the next arc, so whatever. So yeah, getting into the actual discussion, Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp are heading into the forest to go rescue the others. Konis wants Gonfor to come back as the god of the sky, and yeah, they're going on their fucking upper yard adventure. So yeah, lots of just more goofy shenanigans, like with the traps and stuff, and the Straw Hats just going through as usual. And then we do see what's up with the other guys on the sacrificial altar. Yeah, just a lot of adventure this arc. Like everyone's just going off on their little journeys and doing stuff. And well, I guess one thing to build into later, especially with Enel later, is that One Piece is obviously an adventure story. It has been from the beginning. But this arc in particular actually says something about adventure. Adventure is an idea of this arc, and I definitely want to talk about that later. I just wanted to note that down now so I don't forget. Hopefully.
With all the different translations, sometimes it just says kami, sometimes they do use God. So when Zoro says something like "sorry, but I don't pray to the kami," is that a more general comment, I don't pray to the gods, or
just replace every time they say kami, just replace it with God?
But then I also wonder, is it in reference to the god of Skypiea, or reference to a bigger god or gods or whatever?
Well, because basically, how I actually remember the line translated watching the anime was he said that he was atheist, he does. So yeah,
that's kind of what I figured.
Right, so he just doesn't believe in God at all. And then, because Nami also references she's praying to the god one scene and saying "fuck God" literally 2 panels later, and someone commented on that. So it's and they do kind of make it weird with the use of kami because there's obviously we're supposed to see Enel literally thinks he's a god because he's so powerful, and then as Gonfor says, it's just a title. It just means it's basically just king of the sky, pretty much.
Yeah,
king of the sky island. So. So there's obviously it's supposed to be confused, but by making it its own word, that's kind of lost, I think, because it just makes it confusing.
Yeah.
Rather. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the translation. I do think Viz is still on average the best somehow, which is really because I've seen manga colored manga pages and there's memes, and Manga Stream is also memes, so it's well, fuck. You can't win. It's all memes. No, there's other groups, but nothing. V's is also the only group that's completed the entire series. So it's at least it's consistent. If some of the consistency is kami. So yeah, the doofuses. Well, they're all doofuses. I specifically mean Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp. They decide to take the ball challenge, and they fall off a cliff, and they die. That's it. This is the end of One Piece.
Rest in peace.
Yes. One Piece. I feel like we've made that joke before. So yeah, they get into a fight with Satori, and Did you have anything to say about this fight? Like, it introduces a bunch of mechanics, but now you know those mechanics, so...
Well, there's this one panel where Usopp's, like, face pops out of his face.
Oh, yeah, that was after they fell down the cliff, right?
Yeah, I like the part in the SBS where the writers... Or, not the writer, the question person was like, hey, Oda, you say you make faces like your characters' faces, so when Usopp's eyes and teeth popped out of his head, how did you... Did you make that face? He's like, oh yeah, I can do that.
I can do that. Yep.
But yeah, this fight, wasn't super interested in it. Like, yeah, it did introduce mechanics, but I don't know. That's kind of how I felt about, I guess, a lot of Skypiea is like going through it. I was like, yeah, this is okay. Like obviously it's building into something, and then like by the end of the arc, I was like, okay, yeah, that all works together nicely. But as I was going through it, I wasn't as interested as some of the other.
Because in the past I've said this was my like my second favorite arc, but I think that was just because I reread it out of context of the rest of the series. So like going through this arc, I thought like a lot of the ideas were interesting and a lot of the stuff was, and I appreciated it a lot more. So I was like, this might be my second favorite arc. But rereading it, like it's good, but yeah, a lot of it is just kind of like especially like during this middle part, like the climax is amazing, honestly. Like that's just like fucking like might even be better than the Alabasta climax, but Alabasta is better all around, I would say. And it also made me cry harder at the end. Like Skypiea made me cry last time I read it, when Luffy rang the bell, I cried. This time I teared up a little. I think I full cried last time twice, and this time I just teared up twice. So it didn't get at me as strongly this time. But there's definitely good stuff that happens later, but yeah, a lot of it, this early part is just kind of like pretty much all I took from the Satori fight was like they're learning the mechanics, the dials, the mantra. Like Luffy's still like there's the part where he and like there's the running gag with the Tarzan yell, and then like Luffy's doing that, Usopp's doing that, and then Sanji just beats the shit out of them for goofing off. Cause yeah, Luffy still goofs off. Even though he did get challenged on that with Crocodile, he's not like completely changed. So and because again, Satori's not even that strong to really warrant it either. So yeah, I did, and he kind of does it against Enel too, with like he turns off his brain for a bit. Basically the arc that arc of his still has longer to go, is what I'm saying.
I like this recurring sort of, I don't know if it's a gag or just a technique Oda uses where like he'll repeat panels but like change little things, or sometimes he'll just repeat panels for comedic effect, which is pretty good.
Yeah, he does
like
that
when
a lot.
Usopp's trying to swing onto
Usopp
trying to swing onto the boat here, and he doesn't make it, and then it's just the same panel with him like falling backwards.
Right. Yeah, I was actually noticing that like later on too. Well, because there's Luffy gets eaten by the snake, and there's like a 3 or 4 page sequence where he gets out of the snake. And what I thought was interesting about it, because he repeats the panel of the snake lying there, but he actually, if you look closely, he redraws it every time because there's like subtle differences, but it looks really similar. Like it almost looks copy pasted, but not quite. And I thought it was interesting how like similar yet slightly different they look. Like just mostly it was just like the hatching on the snake's like face, kind of and just like, so yeah, it's like, but you're right. Now that you pointed out, I did notice that he does repeats a lot of panels this arc, like that, where he's just, again, especially for comedy, and I haven't really noticed that up to this point. I don't remember that a lot in Alabasta or anything, but in this arc he's definitely doing a lot of that, so it's cool.
I like this one little panel as we kind of move over to, like, we cut to what Chopper's doing for a bit, and like before that there's this panel of like flashing back to what's going on with the whistle. And they're having this argument, like, I'm the weakest. No, I'm the weakest. And Robin is just like, what a strange argument.
Yeah, and then I also love the panel where Chopper actually blows the whistle, because like his both of his expressions, because there's like 3 like choppers, like the one facing Shura.
Yeah, there's a little like time lapse, like he's looking and then he looks away and then he's like, blow the whistle.
The expression of him looking to the side with his eyes like wide open and with the lashes is just like so adorable, and he's just like both of the 2 expressions are really good. Oh man. But that middle one just stands out to me because like it's so cute and almost calm, but it's like the start of his eyes bulging out, I suppose. So it's like, I know Chopper's also adorable in general, so I guess it's part of it. So yeah, I don't think I took very much from the Sanji Usopp Luffy fight. Again, it was just sort of setting up the mechanics, weird, goofy stuff as usual. But mostly just introducing us to Mantra and the first of the battle dials, which we get a deeper explanation of later with Gunfor. Oh, and I guess before Gunfor comes in to fight Shura, we get a scene of him with Konis and Pagaya explaining sort of more of the history with I think there's some interesting things he says like during this part. Like I like how he says he talks about they're pirates, they're criminals, but he points out it's a matter of perspective, because like pirates are demonized in the blue seas, and right, not wrongfully so. A lot of them do monster shit. But Gunfall, he knows that he's met Gold Roger and now he's met Luffy. Like they're not all bad. So he recognizes that it's all I like how he puts it as a matter of perspective. Like the world government's idea that the pirates are all bad and have bounties doesn't necessarily mean they're actually bad. So, and he's divorced from that system because the White Sea is just beyond the world government, basically. So it's kind of interesting to see this other world separate from the Blue Seas and how they have different perspectives on certain things. So, and another thing that kind of you start to see this one because you have the pumpkins and the pumpkin juice, because that's what Gonfor said it to Wiper in the flashback we get a bit later, and then Kirakonis and Page are saying that they like it. And if you'll remember, during the flashback, there's like one panel of Noland giving the pumpkins to the Shandians back on Jaya when Upper Yard was still on the Blue Seas. So basically, like, the pumpkins are just this whole symbol of sort of just the crossing of cultures, basically. Because a lot of this, like this arc in particular, deals with sort of like, colonialism almost, of just like, one advanced culture meeting a less advanced culture, and sort of like an idealized, representation of like how it wasn't in actual real life history, but how it would have been nice, where like they're not like conquerors, but they're spreading information and knowledge. And we'll talk about that a bit more. But like, yeah, the pumpkin juice is kind of just like, it's this positive thing that everyone likes from this exchange of cultures, basically, and it's just one of the benefits of that idea, sort of. So, and they're sort of setting that up here. Did you have anything to say on that conversation, or just? I
don't know. I didn't pick up on that the first time through, obviously, because I didn't have the full context.
And I picked it up on that last time when I reread the arc, and I was like, "Holy shit! It's just a little thing, but it means something, and it's cool." Did you have anything to say about the fight with Shura, with Gunfor fighting Shura, the sky jousting, and Chopper being there too? I had one little takeaway, but nothing super major, because there's a lot of cutting around this arc, so.
Yeah, this one also just kind of seemed like, establishing some stuff, but, like, in its own right wasn't a super interesting fight for me.
Like, well, because, like, with this one and also later on with Zoro and Braham and Om, it's sort of like, there's an idea to this fight, but it only really makes sense when you, and even then it's not like an amazing idea, but like you need the context of both to fully understand the fight, because sort of like what's happening here is, because Shura even says it, because Chopper's like, he's telling Shura what not to do, like, don't, attack me, don't attack the ship, and Shura's like, well, you're not giving me a lot of options, and then Gonfor, he's like, his whole thing is that, like, he was the god of the country, but he's, I think he even said it to Konis, or maybe he says it later to Nami, but he talks about how, like, how guilt, traps it traps the people, and it makes, and they can't act, and how Eneru utilized that. So basically what you have is, like, you have these characters who can't act fighting Shura, but later on Shura fights Wiper and he gets completely destroyed, because Shura is not like Gonfar and Chopper. He is willing to act. He that's the whole reason he's invading Upper Yard, because he wants to act. So, like, you have this fight setting up an idea through two encounters, and Zoro versus Braham and Om is also kind of like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting, even if the idea was like simple, and which is fine. But because other than that, I didn't take much from the encounters. Like, they look cool, the art is good, but yeah. And this is setting up stuff for Chopper too, because he gets a little moment later. Because it's like, this arc has like some really big ideas that I took a lot from, and it's just every now and then he's got these small ones that are like, oh yeah, that's there, I suppose. It's fine. So yeah, I'm skipping ahead. The Shandians invade and the other Shura fight happens. Or does it? I swore it did. No, maybe I was wrong. Yeah, I was wrong. Never mind. Oh yeah, and then we get a bit of a reveal. What did you think of Nami, Zoro, and Robin finding the other half of Cricket's house?
Well, I mean, there's the what was I gonna say? I don't remember.
Okay.
It was a good thing because obviously before. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, well, because it's just like, oh, hey, it confirms what Cricket was saying. So what I was gonna say, but yeah, well, I especially like the bonfire scene, the camp. That's just really fucking fun, and it makes me happy when I read that scene. I'm gonna skip ahead a bit more. Did you have anything to say?
I mean, I guess the little panel where Chopper's like, no, everything's fine. I have this, and he's just crying. He's scared. That's cute.
Yeah, that, shit, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, that's right, because he's like, he wants to be seen as reliable and strong, so he's like, nothing's wrong, but obviously everything's wrong. So, and well, it's also, because he's also the child of the crew, kind of, and so his reaction was really good, because he's like worried about the ship, like, oh shit, the ship is like fucking wrecked, and everyone's gonna be mad at me because I failed to protect it, but Usopp's just like, are you okay? What about you? Did you take care of your own wounds? And it's just like, it's so wholesome, like, because Chopper's just being a worrywart, but also a dumb, naive child, and of course, like, the ship isn't the main priority, Chopper is the main priority, like, because Usopp's the one who cares about the ship the most, but even he's like, are you okay, Chopper? Like, of course he cares about Chopper more. It's just like, and of course, he's like, I love the little panel of him being tiny but engulfed in flames, and he's like, I want to be a strong man. Chopper's so cute. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. But yeah, it's kind of nice that like after a bit of action, and then right before, obviously a pretty long involved set, like it goes from through adventure and action up to the climax and stuff. So we get a nice like low point right before that, and just I don't know, just all the characters interacting, and Nami showing off her stuff in the discoveries and coming up with the plan, and then ends in this big bonfire party, and I just love this scene. It's just so fun and cool, and it's just like, yeah, adventure, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Also,
did you have anything or what's up? I was gonna say,
just as a side note.
What's up?
Side note: Nami with her pigtails, very good look. Glad she kept that for the rest of the arc.
It is. Yeah, it's a good look. I agree. Because like her hair is getting longer, like very slightly. Like I bet if you compared this to older Nami, I do think her hair is a little longer. Because I don't think she would have. Maybe she could have, but yeah, it's. Like the characters are aging very slightly. Like it's not just the art style change. Like it is that like go back to volume 1 and go, oh, what the fuck is wrong with everyone? Why do they look so weird? But yeah, it's because it's cool. It's cool. But some other things I like about one gag I liked was like with the stew, like Chopper found some stuff and Zoro found a frog and a rat and he's just like, let's just throw them in the stew. But then later he's like Chopper's making medicine, and Zoro's just like, do you need a frog? And it's just like, he's just trying to be helpful. Like, just trying to pedal off this frog that he's got. I don't know, I just found that funny.
I also think it's the part where Robin is like, we should put out any unnecessary fires so the enemy doesn't find our position. And Usopp and Luffy are just like, oh, you poor thing. It's like, what? It's like all serious. Like, what do you mean? It's like, it's camping. We gotta have a campfire.
And they're like begging her, like please, we gotta. And then they make a bigger fire. And well, also like there's the thing, like they have all the eyes watching them, but then it's a bunch of wolves, and the wolves join in the bonfire dance, and it's like, wait, only in fucking One Piece would you see this shit. Like, it's fun. And I do want to mention something about this scene later regarding Nami, but again later. So yeah, the party winds down, everyone chills. Usopp sees something fucking weird, and we don't know what it is yet, because he sees someone with a hammer by the merry-go, and then later they wake up and it's like repaired, and he even points out that it's repaired in its original state, like it's the broken chicken version that was stuck on it from Jaya is gone. So it's did you have any takeaway from that, or because it's just supposed to be weird? But
yeah, that was a mystery thing that I kind of just forgot about for the rest of the arc.
Yeah, because the rest of the arc kind of forgets about it too. It's obviously set up for something that doesn't happen, so...
Or set up for something that doesn't happen yet.
Every little thing. But yeah, then we also get introduced to the other vassals, Garatsu, the leader of the Heavenly Warriors, and of course, God himself. I just noticed, I like how the text bubble says Skypiea's one and only God, Anaru. Like, it's like, the text, the introduction narration bubble is hyping him up as the one and only God. And I love Anaru. Well, because he's just like a cocky asshole, but he's not like cocky in like a typical like evil sadistic way. He's very relaxed, like because he's powerful and he knows it, and it's like an interesting way of showing a character being cocky because like, yeah, he doesn't give a fuck. Like he's almost like, yeah, it's cool.
To bring up another SBS thing, I liked when the person was asking, like, is that a rubber swim cap? And Oda's like, yeah. Wait, no, rubber doesn't exist in Skypiea. It's a cloth.
Also, true facts, I'm pretty sure his design was influenced by Eminem, the rapper. Because I don't know why Oda did, well, I'm going to make Eminem God in my story. Like, wait, what? No, he takes a lot of influence from real life people. Sanji's design was influenced by Steve Buscemi in Reservoir Dogs, Mr. Pink. And there's a bunch more, but most of the ones I'm thinking of come from later and are spoilers. So
are these like listed somewhere, like that I could look them up later? I'm
pretty sure they're listed. Like, I've seen images of people with the comparisons, but again, like I said, there's gonna be characters on there that you haven't seen yet. So
that's why I said later. I'll wait.
But yeah, it's cool.
Also, how do we power scale One Piece against Naruto? Because this guy's got 4 Sharingan. So
he's
Madara,
under
Rex.
Danzo, but he's above like most everyone else. Oh my god. Damn you, Mathwiz. You ruined him for Enaru's ruined now. I just noticed he actually has 5 if you count his pillow.
Yeah, I realized that was a pillow, though, so I was like, well, there's just the 4.
Yep.
But that is there.
He's got a Sharingan pillow. I want a Sharingan pillow. No, it's not. I don't know what it's actually called, what the symbols are called. I know it's a thing.
Yeah. Also, I see Eniru's got an apple. That's religion something.
That's religion something, indeed. Different religion. Well, I guess it is like obviously there's a lot of like, you know, some mixes of stuff, but that then again, like the fact that it's like angels and God is very Christian, so he's using like Eastern, you know, influence in like the style, but it is also just the idea of a monotheistic God is in itself Western, so
I was gonna say, unless the apple means nothing and it's just there for aesthetic purposes, but that seems unlikely.
It looks, that's probably, that's the Evangelion way of doing it, so yeah, it just looks cool, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. No, it's fine. I don't care. So anyway, everyone charts out their course to the right eye of the skull, and the derps go out on their adventure, and they're like, what did they say? Robin's like, Luffy, you're funny. Are you that eager for danger? Giant snake, and it's like, yes, there it is. Oh yeah, and then Gonfall explains dials to them, and then God comes in and is just like, sup. I guess I skipped ahead to the next volume.
Yeah, because at this point they're all setting out to go south, and they immediately get split up by the snake, and it's no.
Well, I love how there's like the diagram later that has Robin going the right direction, and everyone else like goes in completely different directions because they're idiots. And Will Chopper's just a scaredy boy, and Zoro's like, you know, Zoro doesn't know directions, and Luffy's like, south, that's the coldest direction, right? Oh god, they're so goofy. So anyway, we get Wiper, a flashback with him and Gunfall about the homeland, and you know, it does rightfully belong to Shandians, but at the same time, it also like, you know, the Skypieans need it too. Like they've been, and like he mentions the pumpkins that came from that island. So yeah. And I guess like one point I thought about it later, but it's like, you know, even though the land was rightfully the Shandians, at the same time, like at this point the the Sky Islanders have lived with it, like, you know, they've been with it too. Like, all these characters have been with it their whole lives, pretty much. So it's like, it doesn't, like, So there's an argument that it doesn't necessarily belong to any of them. But, you know, I suppose but that's a whole political thing that I just realized I was cracking up the door to, and I'm like, maybe not. Let's not do that. Because again, it is an idealized version of colonialism, but it is colonialism. So yeah. Eneru counts up everyone who's involved in the fighting, the heavenly forces, the vassals.
He makes a bet. He says, someone says, "Oh, there'll be 50 people left standing at the end." And he's like, "You think so? I think there'll be 5."
Yep.
In 3 hours.
And then we get the Shura fight I mentioned earlier, where Wiper shows off how strong boy he is. He uses that rejectile like fucking 3 times. Absolute madman.
See, and again, this is where, like, having, because Shura had, like, those fights earlier, that way when Wiper comes in and beats him, then it's like, oh, okay, we know that Wiper's pretty tough, because this Shura guy seemed pretty tough before, but he got wrecked.
Yeah, and of course we do see Wiper fight Luffy later, pretty much on even footing, at least for the time, because obviously it gets interrupted, which really helps for a later moment. That's pretty great. But yeah, the Shandians enter, they split up, the fighting starts to break out.
See, the stuff with the Shandians it kind of reminded me of the Dark Tournament from Yu Yu Hakusho. This was one of those things where, like, I wasn't super interested in it as it was going along, but then, like, the end sort of justifies it, and now going back through it, I'm trying to find, like, what I was trying to be accomplished here. Because just, like, going through it, I wasn't super interested in really anything the Shandians were doing. It just kind of felt like they were just tacked on here, but obviously that wasn't the case.
Yeah, like, once you understand, like, because with Wiper, his, legacy with Kalgara is super interesting, or super necessary, rather, but you don't get that until, like, way later, like, almost the end of the arc, and then it's like, oh, this is why these guys matter, Like, and then, so, yeah, now you're, like, now you know what they're fighting for and, like, what that means to them. But obviously, if you didn't have that, you might not have been as invested. So I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, because, like, when they first get brought in, it's like, okay, we have Luffy's crew, they're looking to do things against these god people, and oh, hey, by the way, there's also this third group, and they're kind of at a war, and the war is happening now. It happens really suddenly. And then, well, like, there's the brief, like, tease of it beforehand, like, while they're trying to get through to get to that campfire thing and do that stuff, like, there was a little bit of fighting beforehand. Mm-hmm. And then it picks up again here, but this is the game now. This is the big battle.
Yep. And actually, and that game actually turned out to be relevant in an unexpected way. Like, I did notice, like, 1 or 2 things rereading, like, especially because I'm paying attention to the fights more and the conflicts, because, like again, with Alabasta, I talked about how, like, Zoro versus Mr. One set a standard I'd like to see replicated more of in other things, too. So I'm trying to pay attention, because, like, with Skypiea, I'd say, like, I love Luffy versus Eneru, but, like, the fights in general aren't as good, like, especially because, like, it's, like, with Shura and Braham and Ohm and Wiper, like, you have fights that are being split up in a way that carry the same idea, but, and so, did you have any thoughts on Zoro versus Braham?
Not in particular, because I know Zoro's, like, I'm a cannon, and, then he cuts him down. No, not really. I can't remember anything.
Yeah, well, because, like, there's one part of the fight where he mentions that he lacks focus, and Braham fights with, like, flash guns, so they're deliberately, a style that messes with that. And Zoro just kind of has to, because, like, what he's doing with his, like, the 36, earthly desire, the Pound Phoenix, is he's focusing, and that goes into the Ohm fight, because what I noticed about that, like, well, see, what I thought that fight was going to be about is because it sort of started up setting off, like, selfishness versus selflessness, because, like, Zoro was, like, I don't usually fight with a motive, but, with Chopper defeated, now I'm about to, so I was like, and Ohm was like, he wants to selflessly kill humans, because they're all full of sin, and they fight all the time, and because he's a fucking JRPG villain, except he's actually just this dumbass. So it's like, I don't know why I throw a JRPG under the villains under the bus like that. I haven't played any, so I don't know. I just joke about that being a common motive from a thing I haven't played that much of. So basically there was one part of that fight, the Ohm fight in particular. I guess I'm gonna get on something now while I'm talking about Zoro and breath, because if you'll remember back in Alabasta, I mentioned a later mechanic that people think breath is connected to. That mechanic is mantra, and I don't know. Do you think they're the same thing, Mathwiz? Even though there's no evidence of them being the same at all? Loaded question, sorry.
They said about mantra that something about, like, everyone has, like, an inner, what was it, like, inner voice or something, and, like, it's all about, like, hearing it, so which I guess, like, breath, like, he also involves, like, hearing.
Yes, so that's the thing, is, like, you have hearing voices in here, like, of people, and hearing, literally rocks and trees, and so, like, some people think these are the same mechanic, but I, like, no. See, and here's why. Because, like, mantra, it only senses voices, it only senses people, it only senses actions, and this is consistent through the entire series, because we do get more of mantra later. But Zoro's doesn't sense people, and you directly see that in the finale of the Ohm fight, because I guess we're going to talk about the Ohm fight now. Did you have any thoughts on it? Like, skipping way ahead, but did anything stand out to you about it, or Ohm's powers with the Cloud Sword, and that whole section was like a big cage match in general? No, I know. I gotta get this off my chest. I'm sorry.
I can't think of anything now. If I think of something later, I'll bring it up.
Okay, that's fine. But yeah, so what I want, because how that fight ended was they're on two sides of the wall. Ohm has mantra, so he's gonna attack Zoro through the wall with his metal cloud. And so what Zoro does is he focuses, and he, after Ohm breaks through the wall, that is when Zoro attacks, because then is when he knows where Ohm is, and that's when he's able to actually aim his attack properly. So he's using breath, he's cutting through the air, he's hearing, like, that's what he's doing with his 36-pound Phoenix. It's an advancement of breath. He's hearing the air and cutting the air. That's what's able to make him do these air slashes. But Ohm, the whole fight, he's unfocused. He's thinking about, like, he's counting the other voices. He's thinking about Enru's game, because he's like, oh, there's 2 animals and 5 people. There's two animals and 4 people. Like, Zoro's focused and he is unfocused. That's the idea of what makes a swordsman that happens this fight. So it's like, but people think, like, if breath was the same as mantra, then Zoro wouldn't need to wait until Ohm attacked through the wall. He would just be able to hear Ohm's voice and attack him. But he can't, because he's not using mantra, because breath and mantra aren't the same thing.
See, mantra, maybe, if you say it comes back later, I'm a little worried about that, because mantra to me doesn't seem like it's, I don't know, maybe it could be expanded on a little more later, but for me, it didn't seem like a super interesting mechanic.
Yeah, because it's like, as mind reading, it just, like, it really only matters if one side has it and the other doesn't. Like, I don't really think we really get, like, a mantra versus mantra conflict. Like, I'm trying to think of what characters fight that would have both had mantra, because, like, the one fight that sort of tipped me off on it was when Chopper was fighting the other dude. Shura,
I forget his name.
Right? It
wasn't Shura. Okay, yeah, that one. And, like, there's a point where Chopper's sort of getting the upper hand, and the guy's just like, oh, I turned my mantra off. And it's like, okay, so the only way that you can be beaten, like, granted, that was the moron, that was the idiot.
If any one character is gonna, like, not forget to use his mantra, it would be him. But at the same time, yeah, especially if you're thinking about later and that happening more often, yeah, I can understand. So it's like,
because otherwise it's just kind of like, how do you get around that? And at least in that particular instance, it was just, oh, I forgot to keep it activated or whatever, which is, and the way it just had to sort of be spelled out like that, like the character, like we had the little panel of him being like, oh no, I don't have my mantra activated or whatever, and it's just like, Well,
that's also true of another mechanic that we haven't been introduced yet, because, like, the thing with mantra is it's not like, okay, say a character dodges an attack, how do you know that they're not just, like, are they fast enough to dodge it, or were they predicting the future? You really can't tell unless the author spells it out for you, or they give us some sort of, like, visual or sound cue. Obviously, we can't have a sound cue as easily because it's a fucking manga, and obviously think about, like, animation, but, because, like, later on, there's a similar, like, invisible mechanic that is given a visualization, and I think it's good, because now that we have the visualization, we don't need to have it spelled out that there's mechanics being used. And so, but with Mantra, the other thing about it is, like, it's since it's so specific, like, Luffy comes up with a lot of creative ways to deal with it when fighting Eneru, and it's really cool, but how many but now that Luffy has all these creative ways of doing it, like, how many times can you have Luffy fight a mind reader and have it still be interesting? Like, it's kind of unbalanced. It's kind of similar with, like, Crocodile. Like, if Crocodile showed up again, we already know how Luffy can beat him. So it's not as interesting. Like, even if another character, like, had to figure out the weakness, like, we know what the weakness is. Like, we know ways that can get around it. Like, maybe there's, like, a really creative solution that still hasn't been used, but at the same time, like, is that going to be as, like, impressive? Like, if you're just repeating these, like, I don't say gimmick negatively. I mean, like, because gimmicks are fine. Even though it's very often used as a negative term. But at the same time, the thing with gimmicks is that if you repeat them, they lose their luster. So, like, and Mantra and, Logia, even, like with Eneru, like, his weakness is specific to him. So it's not really, it doesn't feel like a gimmick because it's a different type of Logia, so, like, that's my thing with it, is, like, yeah, if Mantra was repeatedly used like this, it would just get repetitive. Like, how many times can you make a fight against a mind reader interesting, so
because I know there is that Luffy fight later with Eniru, where he is basically like he recognizes that, oh, I know this attack is coming, but I cannot get out of the way in time, and that makes sense.
That's fine, yeah, but it's
like it's not all bad, I guess, but
no, of course, like again, I think there's a lot of good things that to come out of Mantra, but the issue is, like, if it comes back later, then what? Like, can it continue being good? Like, it's not a system you can base an entire manga around. Not like Devil Fruit, where they're so versatile, like, they don't even feel like they're the same thing, pretty much. Like, because you can have two Devil Fruits that are completely different from one another. So, yeah.
Yeah, because with Devil Fruit, like, each Devil Fruit is their own gimmick.
Right. That's the way to put it. Yeah, it's its own, and they have common rules, but with individual power. Like, Eneru's the only Devil Fruit who has a weakness to rubber like that, so it's unique to him. So he stands out in a way. But Mantra has the same weakness, and lots of characters have the same power. So it's not quite as easy to write, I suppose.
Well, like, I guess Devil Fruit, like, you can have gimmicks within a gimmick, whereas, like, Mantra, it's just that's the gimmick.
Yeah, that's another way to put it. Another comparison would be, like, comparing basic Nen to special Nen abilities, where, like, you have a gimmick of Nen and you have a gimmick within the gimmick of the special abilities. And so, yeah, you could say the same thing there. But yeah, I think I got that off my chest about Breath and Mantra, because I don't see how they're supposed to be the same. Just because the characters happen to hear things, that doesn't mean they're the same, because they hear different things. That's the thing. And especially, like, because I think after the Alabasta episode, some people were pointing out how the breath has connection to Buddhism, the breath of the universe. And that makes even more sense, but also distances itself even further from Mantra. So, yeah. Just throwing that out there. I got heated about that one.
But yeah, to take it back where we started that rant with this first Zoro fight.
Yes, Braham.
That there is that comment about, like, the 36 earthly desires, and I feel like that has more relevance than just what I'm seeing, which is the words on the page.
It's definitely.
And it's just like, okay, that's like a statement that was made.
90% sure that's another Buddhism thing, or some kind of Eastern religion. Like, I'm 100% sure it's some kind of Eastern religion or myth. I'm only 90% sure that's Buddhism. It could be a surprise Hindu. I don't know, or I don't know. So yeah. Japan loves its Buddhism. Well, like, because, like, I thought about it, and, like, in general, like, they'll like, you'll see two extremes being presented, and the answer is always in the middle, like Bleach especially, but like that's a general Buddhist idea, and I feel like I've seen that before in a bunch, like this arc even, because it like later on with the Shandians, they have too much faith in the flashback. They're believing their traditions. They have to sacrifice to gods. And then earlier you had someone like Bellamy who like he comes up with the preconception he's faithless to any other interpretation. It's like, so you have all the two extremes of faith and faithlessness, and the middle ground that's chosen is doubt, tradition, or doubt and progress basically. So it's like, yeah, again, it's Buddhist in that the extremes are wrong, that something in the middle is best. And so, yeah, even though, and I feel like I've seen that in other series too, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. It's just in general, like, the ways that Eastern religions have, like, ingrained themselves maybe even subconsciously into Eastern culture and manga, it's understandable that we're going to see a lot of that. So, and I'm sure the same is the same in the West. It's with Christian values. I just can't think of anything there either off the top of my head. So anyway, I guess, yeah, Zoro vs. Braham is over. Now Eneru comes to the ship just to fuck around. Because he's, like, I love how, like, he calls himself a god, and it actually, like, he sells it. That's what's really great about Eneru. Because, like, and I love his demeanor as he sells it too. Like, he's just a fucking asshole. But like he teleports around, he can hear people talking he went with Konis. He attacked her from miles away. She was on Angel Beach, and he's on Upper Yard, probably in his shrine up top, like miles in the not miles in the air, but in the air too. And he's just like godly thunder. So it's like, Jesus fucking Christ. And then of course there's later the scene where he fucking dies and he revives himself. Like. The build-up with Eneru is great. Did anything happen in that scene? Like, they're talking, and he takes out Zoro or Usopp and Sanji. And he mocks Gonfor. He didn't do much. He just told him about the City of Gold. Did you have any thoughts on Luffy versus Wiper? It's because it's kind of just a fight, so...
Yeah, it starts, and then Luffy gets eaten by the snake or whatever. Or falls into a cave, I'm sorry.
Spoilers, Mathwiz, how dare you? Yeah, but yeah, because it just cuts around to a lot of, like, it's like, it's setting up stuff. Like, now we know how Wiper's big burn bazooka works. Then we cut to one of the Shandians fighting Yama, and we get a teaser of his powers before he gets a fight. And we see Robin exploring... Oh, yeah, because, Robin, I think, is this when she gives... Yes, she finally gives us a time frame and something, a pretty important lore drop. We don't know why it's important yet. But basically, she talks about the gap in the history of the world. This is called the Void Century. This will definitely not come up again. I'm not mentioning it for no reason in particular. Because how can people say that fucking Skypiea was inconsequential when, like, we get this build up to, like, important lore stuff, and then, like, never mind just, like, the fucking interesting ideas that, are fucking applicable to fucking, like, I'm mentioning, like, fucking colonialism and religion, and I'm like, it's real shit.
Well, yeah, because, like, if there would be any sort of, like, focal characters in Skypiea, like, obviously there's Luffy, because Luffy is Luffy, the main character, but Robin would, like, you said Nami was pretty important to, like, the themes of the arc, but as far as, like, where the plot seems to be going, this seemed to be more, like, Robin focused with, like, all the history stuff.
See, that's the funny thing, because I remember seeing it was, like, a comment...
and plus, I'm gonna cut you off for a second.
I'll remember what I was going to say.
Because this is the... Like, we're coming off of Alabasta, where she joined the crew looking for something, and so, like... You have reason to believe that, like, she wouldn't stick, like, she's trying to get something, not necessarily that she'd be sticking with the crew, and, like, perhaps if she finds her answer here, then she might be gone, but that is not the case.
That's a good point.
Okay,
yeah.
Maybe I didn't have to cut you off for that. Maybe that wasn't that meaningful. Go ahead.
No, that's fair. Well, because, yeah, she is, she had, all the Straw Hats have their own goals, so there is the question of, like, why are they still with the crew? Because usually it's because they see the crew as the best way to achieve that goal. Well, with Robin in particular, she's newer to the crew, and she's also, like, as we saw with Baroque Works, she's not necessarily the most loyal. Like, her introduction, like, I pointed out, like, how many things was she doing to work against Baroque Works at the time? And she also didn't kill Igaram, which I couldn't say then, but like she'd done it. So it's like, there's so much of her there that's like, not loyal to her. But obviously Baroque Works is a criminal organization. The Straw Hats are pretty cool, so, probably not gonna have it with them, but it's like, the possibility is there. Well, what I was gonna say is, it was a joke post, but it's like, sort of like someone imagining the Straw Hats as like a D&D group, a Dungeons & Dragons group. Like Zoro he's the player who doesn't like anything but fighting, and that's why Zoro's always asleep outside of the fights. And Robin's the only character who cares about the Game Master's story. That was it. Because, like, she's the only one who cares about that, like, the actual, like, setting and history of the world. No, everyone else just wants cool shit and adventure and fights. And Robin's like, but the lore! Fucking nerd. But it's funny, well, because, like, that's even true, like, of the later stuff, is, like, she's the only one who cares about the history of the world. That's, like, possibly the most important element of the setting. Like, not even gonna lie. It's fucking huge.
So what you're saying is that she's not an actual player. She's an NPC Oda created to make sure that the lore... But never mind. This has gone too far.
We're going too deep, man. Oh, man. All right, so I guess if we're done with that, we do get another fight, because there's a bunch of those. What did you think of... I guess I think you already mentioned you weren't too... Or maybe, I don't know. Chopper versus Garatsu. The Vassal, which is Chopper.
This was, like, other than that little moment I talked about earlier with the mantra, this was probably one of the more interesting of the earlier fights, just because this guy's such a doofus.
He is, like, and so there's a lot of, like, gags and stuff, and you also have Chopper, like, this is Chopper's first one-on-one fight, with that, and he's also completely alone. Like, last time he had Luffy watching him, and, on Drum he had Luffy watching him, and on Alabasta he was with Usopp, and... sort of, I guess, like, kind of what the arc, it's, like, reaffirm, like, if I have to, like, force a takeaway out of this fight, it's that Garatsu is fucking weird, and, like, which is kind of, like, because Chopper's whole thing is that he's this monster, he's this outlier, but here's Garatsu, who's, like, way weirder than him, even though he's a sky person, like, so, and you also have Chopper sort of, like, reaffirming, he's just trying, he wants to be a man, so he's trying to be reliable, and he does, and it's fine.
Well, there was sort of an interesting moment, which I guess was later on. Obviously, one of the funny things with Garatsu was he's like, where did he go? Does he have the power to make himself invisible? And he's just showing the whites of his eyes.
He's so stupid.
Which, like, it's one of those things that just happens in manga and anime, and it looks cool, but it's like, this character's literally doing that. And
like, Garatsu has so many weird, like, traits. Like, he keeps trying to, like, cross his arms, but he does it wrong, so his arms are just sort of, like, in front of him, like in an X, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Are you okay? Oh, and I guess there was one thing I forgot to mention, because, like...
And he just randomly attacks his own subordinate because he can't aim or something.
Well, yeah, that happens, yeah, and then, well, because Chopper, he says that, like, right before he ends the fight, he says, I'm a monster, I'm strong. Like, in order to win
that was it.
Become a reliable man, he has to also accept that he is a monster. So...
Yes, that was the big takeaway for me.
Yeah, exactly. So I almost forgot about it, which is shameful. Absolutely shameful. But for me...
Yeah, because it was something that, the villagers of... Drum, yes, that's the name. Like, they insulted him, like, you're a monster, blah. Yeah, yep. But he sort of, like, reclaims that. He's like, no, I am a monster. Yeah. You should fear me.
Chopper is a good boy.
I also like how there's this warrior, whatever, working with name guy.
Garatsu?
I forget his name. Garatsu, yeah.
Kamakiri?
Yeah, but there's the warrior who shows up and they're like, okay, we're going to team up, we're going to fight together, and he just one-shots him. The Heavenly Warrior, that's the name.
Yeah, he's the MVP, and then he dies because he gets stuck in a swamp cloud and suffocates to death.
Well, no, and then Chopper heals him, and he's like, okay, I'll fight alongside you, and then he just gets one shot.
Okay, you're right, he does get knocked out. Well, it's interesting, because, like, Garatsu's, like, attacks are so dangerous to Chopper, so he, like, introduces the side character to take those attacks, so we could see how dangerous they are without Chopper actually getting hurt. And it's funny, and, like, it makes sense, and it's fine. So yeah, it was, I think... Like, I did have a takeaway from the Ohm fight, but yeah, this one is also a decent fight. Like, Like, the fights are decent. It's not like they're bad, but, like, after Alabasta, it's like, they could be better.
It's definitely not Alabasta, but then again, it also didn't have the same build-up as Alabasta.
True. Well, Alabasta had a lot of build-up, and it was also, like, well, because, like, the other thing is, like, because I mentioned last time, it's Alabasta, it was the first arc to push the Straw Hats to 100%. Like, they're all putting in all of their effort, you know, Luffy especially. And so this arc, like, with the other Straw Hats, they're just kind of fights. Like, Zoro, he doesn't particularly struggle with Ohm. Like, he doesn't come away from that fight, like, super wounded. Any character who encounters Eneru gets super fucked up. But, like, you know, Chopper had a decent fight. Robin had a decent fight. Which is, for them, that's their first one-on-one fights. So for everyone else, it's kind of like a mixed bag, depending on the character. But with Luffy, I also think it's interesting, like, I guess while we're on the topic of general fights, because, like, with Crocodile was the first person to push him to 100%. Eneru is actually way stronger than Luffy, technically. He has, like, one of the strongest Logia-type Devil Fruits. He's all hearing. He's incredibly powerful. He easily defeats Zoro and Sanji without breaking a sweat. And they're two of the monster trio. But Luffy is someone who's weaker than Eneru, but is able to beat him because he's he's the natural enemy of lightning, Rubber, and B, he's created enough to get around his mind reading. So basically, Luffy is doing to Eneru what characters like Don Krieg were to Luffy, where Don Krieg has every advantage, but Luffy still wins because he's stronger. Like, now Luffy has every advantage, and he wins because Eneru wasn't able to keep up. So it's like flipping it a bit, where Luffy is fighting someone who should be stronger than him, but he's got all the advantages this time. So it's like, what I like about it is, like, because you'd think, like, oh, Luffy put in all of his effort, he's got to get stronger now, right? But, like, he's able to make a situation where Luffy fights a stronger, more dangerous opponent, but, like, Luffy doesn't have to get stronger himself to actually win, because he's already, like, the natural enemy of Eneru. And I just thought that was a really interesting way to explore Luffy's abilities further. And, like, I wonder, I'm trying to think of, like, other shonen series, and, like, because they're often so, like, preoccupied with, like, growth, that they don't, like, explore the character's limits as much. And, like, so, like, One Piece is kind of, I guess, like, I'm sure there's other examples, I just can't think of any right now, because, like, I just think it's interesting that One Piece, like, sets Luffy up against a really strong dude that he has to put all his effort, but it doesn't make him get stronger immediately after that, and I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, that was...
Yeah, because usually with those characters, is like, they will... Well, I guess the thing also, it helps that, like, Luffy doesn't... I mean, I don't know, there are probably other moments in Shonen where a character, like, manages to barely win and then is like, I need to get stronger, but, like, Luffy doesn't lose, so he's not like, oh, I need to get stronger so I don't lose again.
And he's not even that, like, kind of character necessarily, because even with, like, a close loss like that, like, a character would think, like, I want to get stronger so that doesn't happen again, but Luffy doesn't give a fuck, and that might come back to bite him in the ass later or not, who knows. But it's like, I just think it's an interesting way to structure the power curve, so to speak, because it's like, we hit the top, but we're not going to go higher right after that. So it's cool. One Piece is interesting in that way. And because even the fact that Luffy goes so far without actually getting stronger is interesting. So, because he's still, like, that's the thing. He's still, like, maybe a little bit more experienced than he was at the start of the story, but I wouldn't say he's necessarily stronger. Like, he might seem stronger, but that's also because he's fighting stronger people. So, yeah. So, I guess, did we have anything else to say on Chopper versus Geratsu, or...
The ending is kind of funny, where he's like, I have to escape, and then he just shoots himself further down, and he just sinks into his own trap.
Rest in peace. He's dead. He fucking died. So anyway, next up is, I guess another fight, Nami. Why did I say Luffy? Haven't we done that before? I swear one of us has said tried to say Nami but said Luffy instead.
No. For me, you were saying, like, oh, at least he hasn't said Zolo, and I was like, no, but I've called him Luffy.
Oh, yeah, and you've also called Oda Kubo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the other one. So yeah, I guess Nami and Bonfire have a fight with Kotori and Kotori, I think. Satori, yeah, Satori's the older brother. So yeah, and this was a fight. I think
Nami doing things, she said, like, no, sometimes I need to do the protecting, even when Ganfor was like, no, you stay there. And that was was cool. Nami got to do a thing.
Yeah, well, if there's any takeaway, it's just Nami sort of reaffirming what she did on Alabasta. Like, she's able to fight, she's able to like let herself come to harm to win. Like, she gets hurt by the impact dial, just like last time she got hurt by the double fingers needles. Though I guess she's able to fight without like Vivi was pressing her last, like she wanted to help Vivi last time, so of course she's going to put in her all, and now she's like, so she's showing off a bit more experience, but there's no like major idea I took from it, at least. So
no, not really. It's just kind of, Nami's still capable. I like the little panel with her just sticking her tongue out, and she's like, this might hurt a little, as she uses the impact dial to just kill this guy.
Mm-hmm. Nami's always got a lot of good expressions. But yeah, I guess moving on, help arrives. Except it's just like Paglia, Konis, and Isa, so not exactly, but they're able to, I like the bit where like Isa's like ready to fight Nami, and Nami's like, I will impact you, you little shit.
Yeah.
Like, she will fucking destroy this child. Oh god. Nami's so mean. Well, I mean, the kid's being mean too. Did you have anything else to say about that? Or I guess there's one other scene we could talk about before we get to the next fight.
Well, yeah, because then it cuts to the big leader of the forces guy, and Robin's like, no, don't destroy the history, and
yes.
So she just like runs off.
Yeah, that was the fight I was going to skip to, because before we talked about the fight, there's like a little bit with Kamakiri and Eneru, where Kamakiri finds out that Eneru's a Logia, and thus invincible to common means. Though it kind of doesn't matter, because Wiper has Sea Stone, so like he was prepared anyway. Though it's more of his godly power. Like, I do like the fucking panels of him. He's just got a spear in his head, and he's like, doesn't bother me. So yeah, nothing much to say there, unless you do have something to say there. Otherwise, we can go ahead to Yama and versus Robin. Because did you have anything to say about that fight? Robin finally gets a fight.
See, there was maybe one single takeaway I had from this fight, because I also don't remember this much happening. But yeah, they fight, and there's the one... Where the heck is it? Okay, there it is. There's the one panel where she is like swinging him from a tree or whatever with her arms, and it just shows her like she's like grabbing her shoulder, and it's like it seems to imply that there's like, like, how do her powers work? It seems to imply that it's based on like muscle or whatever. Like, she has to use strength to like carry things with her arms or whatever. So like. Yeah. That's just interesting to like see a bit of how her powers work, because I felt like she was obviously she's the newest member of the crew, so we don't quite fully understand how her devil fruit works.
Well, because like all we've seen her do is she took out a bunch of soldiers and Pell, pretty much. Like, so we haven't seen her do quite a lot with her powers. So this is her, and at least not in a fighting situation. So this is her first like extended fight with and her first fight as a Straw Hat, period. So.
So like we don't really know what her limits are, but here we kind of just see like a little bit of like what could be a weakness.
Well, because like a couple things I took away from the fight is like, I guess the idea here is obviously like, she cares about history, but also I guess what I noticed that I didn't before is that she cares about like the Vars, that this holy land, she cares about it and its integrity more than this defender of the holy land. Like, so. Because he's like destroying it, he doesn't care, but Robin wants to protect the artifacts and stuff. So I guess there's a bit of a difference there. And she's just fucking wrecks him, and like she's more cruel than like any other Straw Hat in the way she fights. Like when she fucking like Yama jumps in the air and she flips around his sash of axe dials, and he runs into a tree and cuts himself up like Jesus fucking Christ. And then after that she grabs him by the hair and pulls him up. Like, she just fights in a really brutal way.
And then there's that panel where she says, "You do such horrible things."
after just fucking ruining him. Which is funny because she cares more about history than she does his like body and life. She doesn't give a fuck about this guy. So that's why she's able to say that, because she's just so... She is kind of twisted in that way. And she reads like a character who comes from a criminal background, and I like that. Because Jesus fucking Christ, she just rips him to shreds, and it's great. Like, so as a fight, it's like she just sort of stomps him, but like it's cool. It's Robin. She's cool. So it's fine. So yeah, everyone's was that all you had to say on the fight, or yeah, probably.
Yep.
I think. Yep. Okay. So yeah, moving on. She and Chopper go back to exploring. Chopper runs into and Holly, or I think it's Holy, like Holy, yeah, or Holy, because it's heaven. So of course they're gonna name their dog that. Though they translate it as Holly, so maybe it is supposed to be Holly. I don't know. I've seen other translations that use Holy, and that I guess fits the religion thing better.
And then this dog fucking kills Chopper because his antlers pop off of his head with his hat.
And Oda just said, "It just works, okay? Leave me alone." Yep. And then actually kills Chopper. Like, it goes from, like, goofy shenanigans, and then just fucking wrecks him. And it's like, oh shit. Poor Chopper. He didn't deserve this. So anyway, Luffy's getting pissed off that he's in a snake that's a cave, and he starts attacking the cave, and the cave gets mad and starts chasing Nami. So Luffy's indirectly fucking over Nami. Nice going, nerd.
Also, I like
what's up?
in between that, there's like this brief cut to Zoro, and I like how he's there with the bird who's like facing, yeah, and it's like facing a weird direction. And Zoro's like, "What are you doing?" But of course, because it's the south bird, like Zoro needs to go south. And
so we know that Zoro's going the opposite. That's good. You're right. He's going the opposite way because he's a fucking idiot.
See, and that's like I wasn't sure if the bird was like trying to tell Zoro that, like, Zoro's all like, "Oh, you're about food. Like, you're looking for food, and you followed me. You shouldn't have followed me, you idiot." And then like it picks up the bag and flies away.
Yeah, like
I wasn't quite sure what was happening there, because I know like we have these sentient animals in One Piece.
Yeah, I don't think the bird obviously didn't know where Zoro's going. Like, I'm pretty sure it just wanted to watch Zoro, so it had to be in front of him to look south at him because Zoro's going the wrong way. And of course, yeah, it does take the bag because it thinks there's food in it. And later I love the bird's like we see his thought bubbles, but you know it's a bird, so we only see it in like images, which he also did with Richie back in Logtown. I remember because Richie was thinking about food, so he'd have a thought bubble of a rice bowl and whatnot. So in Oda's world, animals only think when it's about food, I guess. At least we only see their thoughts when it's about food. Because I do love the bit where he's like, Snake want food. Zoro is food. Drop Zoro. Snake goes for Zoro. And then he drops Zoro.
Yeah.
Fucking asshole. Why are Southbirds such assholes? Like, the whole species, I say, from just these two. Well, no, I guess they saved Chopper, so they're not that bad. So yeah, I love the setup of everyone at the ruins with like and Gonfor and Wiper, and then there's just a big spread of them and the snake. It just looks cool. But yeah, I already talked about Zoro versus so...
Wow, now I feel kind of stupid because I'm looking at this panel where like the snake, like it's catching up to, or it's over by Nami and it's like drinking the water, and then it like immediately cuts to Luffy and is like, "Wow, I almost drowned. There was an earthquake, blah." And I don't know how I hadn't put the pieces together by then that they were the same thing.
Oh, when did you figure it out? Like when they fell into the snake and found Luffy, or?
Actually, no, like, it was immediately after that when he kicked the snake, and then you saw the reaction from the snake. But somehow I still didn't connect that like Luffy drowning was like the snake drinking water.
I actually didn't notice that, probably, but I don't even remember the snake drinking. But I knew from the beginning because I'd read this so many times before. But so I'm not sure when I quote unquote figured it out. So Skypiea in general was weird for me because it actually like I never really got through it until like I wasn't. I think I'd tried to watch it and read it a few times, but I don't think I actually was 100% sure I'd seen the entire thing until it was weird because the Australian TV, they were airing the Funimation uncut One Piece dub, and someone was uploading that onto Arlong, or they were linking it on Arlong Park. So I actually ended up like watching all of Skypiea English dubbed, and I think that was the first time I went through the whole arc from like beginning to end for sure until I bought the volumes later. So, and then I reread it for the video because I don't know. I just like, yeah, Skypiea does have slower bits, and I lost interest in it at some points. So, I have no idea when I first knew that Luffy was in the snake. So I can't even remember any of that shit anymore. It's just been so long since I started the series. So some of that sense of like, that's why I keep asking you about that stuff. Is like, what did you think when you noticed this? Like the Jaya reveal, because like I can't have that anymore, Mathwiz. I'm sorry. I'm trying to re-experience what it's like to go through One Piece the first time vicariously through you. I'm sorry. No, it's fine.
This is what the Nen Show is all for. It was really just we just went through the first two just to get to One Piece. This is what it's all about. Once One Piece is over, we're gonna cancel it, and that's gonna be the end.
The Nen Show's over.
Because Craftsdwarf got what he wanted.
Oh man. So yeah, there's a bunch of fighting. Holly can box. She's a boxing dog. I don't know why. It's goofy. But yeah, it happens. And Robin's going down rather than up. She's trying to find the stuff. Also, I do like the panel series of the page where she's like you see her like carving up the cloud, and her hands are like passing it upwards. Like her power is so fucking cool. Like, I don't know, I feel like the thing with Robin's power, and like, I don't know, it's tricky, because it's like, she can just so easily, like, defeat opponents, like, how does she get a good fight? I don't know, it's, like, the ammo was fine, but, like, how do you write a fair fight with Robin? I don't know, like, maybe, I don't know, we'll see, I suppose,
Yeah, that's the thing, because, like, we saw, so far what we've seen of her is either she's wrecking somebody for the most part, or like the fight with the little squash thing with Crocodile,
yeah.
where like she just can't.
Both of them, yeah. She just gets destroyed. Like she can either do she wins or gets beaten, and both in really easily, pretty much. Like the only thing with Yama, like she wasn't held back by like any sort of like, she was held back for external reasons, not because of like her power. Like she could have destroyed Yama at any time. She was in a precarious spot. She didn't want to hurt the artifacts, so she had to run. And then once she was free, she just fucking destroyed him. So yeah, it's like she can't.
Basically, like if she can grab something, she's pretty good. If she can't grab something, then she's stuck.
Because again, Logia, she couldn't just break Crocodile's neck. She can't do that. He's sand. At least not without water. But Crocodile dealt with that because he's Crocodile. So is that her? No. Well, because like while the fighting's going on, Robin's digging up the lost city of Shandora. And I was trying to see if she's on here, if she's on this big 2-page spread. And there's a sound bubble near the top, so maybe, but I don't actually. Not sure if I can see her or not. Like I'm playing fucking Where's Waldo here, and I should probably just be moving on.
Yeah, Craftsdwarf. We can only play Where's Waldo when we're looking for Panda Man.
All right, so. Did you have anything to say about Zoro versus Olm? Because I already pointed out, my thoughts on it, and talked about how the concentration element plays in, because Olm's just getting distracted with everything else. Dumbass.
Yeah, I think you basically covered it. Like, he's got his iron clouds, and Zoro's trying to dodge him, and then eventually he just cuts him. Yep.
Oh yeah, Nami and Isa got swallowed by the snake, and they meet Luffy. And I like how when like the panel where they realize that Luffy's been in there the whole time, and then they realized it was his fault that the snake was going wild, and Nami hits Luffy and then she makes the snake go wild. So just more goofy gags. Oh yeah, Eneru comes down to see Robin, and they have a little chat about the bell because Eneru's looking for the bell too.
Well, I'm still back a little further. I see like what is it? Rocky showing up. Like, I don't know. This was one of the, like, I'm sure she does something for the arc, but I don't know. This was another one of those details that, like, here's a character that's just kind of here for the arc. I don't know. It didn't really do much for me.
Like, she's a plot device, but she's just kind of a plot device. Like, well, no, there's the thing of her with the Vars. She wants the Vars, and like that's a thing, I guess. So she's, there's a little bit to her, but like, yeah, she's just kind of like, she's able to see the voices, so she's able to sense, and that's a thing. And yeah, she doesn't add a lot. Yeah, Isa, right?
No, not Isa. She does a little more.
Okay, I misheard.
No,
you.
it's the adult woman.
Rocky. Okay,
Rocky.
I misheard. I'm sorry. I just assumed. Yeah, she's just kind of there. You're right. But anyway, Eneru, he's like, I'm bored, and then he, after Oma gets beaten, he brings down everyone to the lower level. Oh, and the snake starts singing and dancing for no reason in particular, right, Mathwiz? I mean, now you know what it is.
It's totally random. that snake, that crazy snake.
Yep. And then he gets fucking destroyed by Eneru. Because Eneru's a fucking asshole. So
also, in the meantime, there was this cutaway to Konus and her father and this guy. And it's like, oh, Eneru is going to destroy everything. This country is doomed. And then, boom, lightning strikes.
Yep.
And characters
I guess we could,
dead.
Yep, we could
They're
talk about
gone.
that. Did you want to talk about that now or later?
Well, I mean, they're not dead. Obviously.
Yep, they're not. In fact, I don't think anyone. Well, there might have been like there was no noteworthy amount of casualties at least. Like Getetsu, he's gone. He just went straight through the bottom. But yeah, it's like I don't know. Did you want to talk about that now or later?
Yeah, I'll wait on it a little yet. I'll let it stew for a bit more.
Okay. So anyway, I do like, so going back to Eneru and stuff, he's, there with the last of the survivors. His prediction was not quite right. There's one more that he does, and of course he also doesn't know about Luffy and Isa because they're stuck in the snake. I like the bit where, like, he's like, which one of you are you going to vote among yourselves? And they're like, I don't want to do it. And then they, like, nod, and Nami, like, is fucking terrified. Poor Nami.
Yeah, because it was like a smaller panel, like from more of like a distance, I couldn't quite tell if they were like looking back at Nami or but they were just nodding. That's what they were doing. Okay, because Nami's just like, what?
Well, maybe because
no,
Zoro,
the way
Zoro's
me.
head, it almost looked like he is looking back at her, but it might just be like, but they have the head motion there. I don't. But because like I don't know. Maybe it could be either. Like, and I'm kind of stuck on it now. I just kind of
maybe it's both. Maybe Zoro's looking back at Nami and is like, "Hey, take Nami," because.
But it seems weird of them to all look back at Nami and then just go focus on Eneru. Like,
no, yeah,
so
they're right.
That's
you're probably just nodding.
That's why I figured it was.
You were right.
Yeah.
Ignore me.
Because I do like that they're just like, yeah, you're going down, Eneru. So yeah, we get a bit of more of the like Gonfar. He's worrying about giving the Shandians their land back, and then Eneru comes in, and then we see some village kids talking about, oh, my dad's working for God. He'll come back one day. Silly naive child, being hopeful. And so also we learn a bit more about Eneru's motivation because he's looking for the endless Vars, which is something that even the Sky people think is mythical. And well, because we find, he like, the way he sees it is that, the gods should be on the land of gods and the endless Vars, and humans should be on the ground. So the Skyland it's unnatural. It's something, it's not a place for gods or men. So it should be destroyed. And of course, I think Gonfort even says, like, there is no such thing as God. Like, it's all human land, so it doesn't matter. But Eneru's a fucking maniac, so yeah. I do have more to say on that later. Did you have anything to note about this, or I guess the general encounter of Eneru versus everyone?
I mean, things get introduced that will come up later, which are just like, him talking about like, oh, it's only natural. Like, I'm only restoring things to their natural way or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, that becomes more important later. But in the moment, he just kills everybody pretty much. Like this guy, this old man, he's like, I'm gonna fight you. Oh no, I'm electrocuted. And he's down.
Yep. And then Robin gets wrecked. And, well, there's actually an interesting sort of bit after that, because, like, Robin gets wrecked, and Zoro says, she's just a woman, and Eneru's like, yeah? And you also get that later bit when Rocky comes into the sidelines, because, like Eneru points out that like Eneru doesn't see women and men and women as like different. He doesn't like he's like women can be he's not sexist, but Zoro it kind of is, because he's like mentioning the fact that Robin is a woman, like as if that's something notable, like it matters, like Eneru is worse for attacking a woman than a man. And people say Zoro's not sexist. Like here he is, like kind of looking down on Robin as a woman by pointing it out. Like when as Eneru says, it doesn't matter. So that's one of the other points of evidence that I think about as far as Zoro's sexism goes. And you kind of see that like and Eneru was pointed out with Wiper and Rocky as well later. So that was one thing I had to mention. And then of course there's Wiper being fucking awesome because he uses Sea Stone and kills Eneru. He actually like kills him. He stops Eneru's heart, but Eneru defibrillates his own heart and comes back to life. Holy shit! It's such a good moment. Eneru's really good.
I forget what was in the sea prism. Was it the shoes?
No, the shoes were they have sea prism in it because that was his plan to use Sea Stone so that Eneru couldn't escape and then rejectile him to kill him. But then Eneru fell back away from the sea prism, so his lightning came back and it revived his. That is like that and Killua using his like electricity to make all of his body like a nerve, and so he can react from anything. Like those are like the two single most like creative uses of electricity I can think of. Like both of them, because he fucking died and he defibrillated his own heart, which again adds to his godliness. He's Jesus. He died and revived. Like not in more like in 3 seconds than in 3 days, but you get the idea. And
so basically, electricity is the best power any character can have.
I think I agree. Yeah, electricity is really good. Like, fire can be, but it's not off. Like, look at Ace. He's just he shoots fire. That's it. Like, I've heard what's it called, Fire Force, Nen no Shobutai or whatever. I think it's by the same author as the Soul Eater. Like I've heard that uses a lot of creative uses for fire. But it's not normal, I would say. Whereas, like, with electricity, I can think of, like, 2 characters who use it in really neat ways. And so, like, these two. Or, no, not these two. Eneru and Killua, just off the top of my head. So, yeah, and electricity is cool, is what I'm saying. But I gotta say, Wiper's fucking endurance is, like, off the charts. Like, he gets blasted, like by lightning, like, several times. He uses the rejectile, like, 3 times. Like... at the end of it, like, Choppers even points out his bones are fucking smashed, but he didn't die. Like, the dude is fucking got a lot of endurance, is what I want to say. He's like, holy shit. And even, like, he's like, he's not standing for himself, he's got his ancestors, that's who he's fighting for, his past, his history. So, yeah. Wiper's cool, I guess. Like, because the thing about this arc is, like, this is the longest arc, and actually... Yeah, this is easily the longest arc that didn't add a new member to the crew. Like, the last time that we got any arc that didn't add someone to the crew, it would have been, technically Jaya, but Jaya also leads into this one. But also, because at the end of Alabasta, Robin joins, kind of, and then mostly she joins in the, like, it's, like, right at the bridge of Alabasta and Jaya. But Little Garden would have been the only one, so it's, like, I feel like, I wonder if people were, like, expecting Wiper to join just because another Straw Hat. Like, how do you have an arc this long and not have a Straw Hat join? Like, I never had that perspective because obviously he was never on the crew, but, I just kind of wonder what people thought back then. Is what I'm
and I guess I couldn't have that perspective because like I know who the Straw Hats are. Like it's kind of tough to not see
the marketing, and see look at all those guys and that guy looks really weird. I have still you still haven't seen him yet, So like with Robin, you were kind of like, is that the same character? And then once you got the name, you're like, oh, that's the Straw Hat. Like you don't have that like perspective of not knowing anything, which is a shame, but it's also unavoidable. Like I've heard it pointed out, like. In a few years, when One Piece ends, people will be going into One Piece knowing what the One Piece is. So, like, we going through it now still don't know that. So there's some level of mystery that you're just like, once we find out what the One Piece is, it's like it's in the title of like one of the most popular series to come out in like since it came out. Like,
and it's been going on for like 20 years.
25, so, 25 years, and like so. No, you're right, 20 years. Yeah, like. So, like, once we find out what the One Piece is, the spoiler is going to spread like wildfire, because it's, like, answering the biggest question of one of the biggest series in 20 years. And so, like, but we now we don't have that perspective yet, so we're able to, like, just go through the series, and it's cool. So, yeah. So I'm curious as to how, like, because you do have, in some ways, a transformed perspective from knowing outside things that you literally can't avoid, like Nico Robin. So, it's kind of interesting how everyone who goes into One Piece is going to have some sort of transformed perspective. Like, there's things that I wish like, even if you just watch the anime, you see Robin, like, the reason I didn't use the third opening earlier was because Robin shows up in it, even though the third opening starts partway through Alabasta. So it spoils that she joins the crew before Alabasta even ends. Nice going, Toei, you fucks.
Yeah.
I mean, Shonen OPs do that all the fucking time, but it's still, why? Why do they do that? Because they always like to hint at the material that's coming. Like, look at all these things that are going to happen later, but, like, the Straw Hats joining is a big deal, so it's, like, a shame. So, but like I said, the only way you could, like, feasibly avoid it is if you somehow go into the manga without knowing or seeing a lot of One Piece, not recognizing Robin like you did, and then just getting lucky, basically. But then some characters are, like, recognizable. Like, how do you miss them? So, yeah, it's a shame. But
yeah, you got me thinking now about, like, people will one day go into One Piece knowing what the One Piece is, and that's crazy, because, like, One Piece is older than me. Like, by a couple months, One Piece is older than me. So, like, people have been born and have, like, lived. Like,
yeah, you born and came along to live long enough to read One Piece, and but you still don't know what it is, and
yeah, because it's still ongoing.
Yeah, and either Oda will die, or you'll find out what the One Piece is in your lifetime. So it's like, you know, it's a mystery that will be solved eventually. So basically, you were born at the perfect time to read One Piece, is what I'm saying. Your life was leading up to this moment, Mathwiz. No, I don't know. So yeah, the fighting ends. Enaru defeats everyone, even Zoro. Like, that's the thing, is, like, he takes out, like Wiper killed him, but it didn't matter. He just got back up. So it's like, I just love how, you know, he's presented as this unkillable god. Well, not unkillable, but unbeatable. He got killed, but he didn't get beaten. It happens. It's One Piece. Characters die, but they don't. Right? Oh god, what have I said? But yeah, and Nami's just like, I'll go with you. And it was like,
that was interesting. Was when he said, like, or when Eniru, like, we were down to the final 5, and he's like, okay, you all can come with me. And it's like, it didn't matter who they were, what they're like. I don't know, because he had
as
said,
long as they knocked out one of them, because so his prediction would be correct. Like, that was the only condition. But then now that the condition's been fulfilled, like, he'll just, yeah, I'll take you. Yeah, sure, let's go.
But of course, then they all fought him anyway, and so Nami was kind of the only one to really take him up on that offer.
Right. Because that's Nami. She is, you know, manipulative, and so she's able to. Of course, and she did so with as we see later, she does so with the intent of sneaking away. But you know, she's, you know, at the same time, she did do that. So it's Nami being Nami. And then because we see the arc Maxim, and Nami's, you know, like, oh shit, I won't be able to escape it on a flying ship. So she's kind of stuck, because she's with a god that she can in no way defeat. But yeah, and he's ready to take her. And we get the sequence earlier I talked about earlier with the snake, the sleeping snake, the knocked out snake that Luffy escapes from, because, like, if you look at the hatching on his, like, above his nose, like, under and even his stripes all look slightly different. So he drew the same thing like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and it looks slightly different each time. So, like, Jesus fucking Christ. But again, with the repeating panels, because this kind of takes it to another extreme. But go on.
I like how sometimes what Oda will do with his panels, where, like, it'll, like, the big, like, reveal thing, like, it'll be shown in advance. So, like, in this, you have the 2 pages where you have, like, the snake opens his eyes, and then they, like, pop out, then they're closed again, and then you see it's Luffy in the eye.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Like,
so
even from the very first time that the snake's eyes are open, you can see that Luffy is there, because it's the same...
It's the same shape, but you don't recognize it as Luffy until it zooms in, and you see, oh, it's Luffy lifting up the eyelid.
Yeah.
Right. And then he's just got, like, such a nonplussed look on his face. He's just like, yeah. This is happening right now.
Yeah. I think Oda had done something like that earlier, not with repeating art, but just like having a detail, like a small detail in there somewhere, like when Eniru showed up on the ship and like confronted Nami and them, like there was a more far off shot of him, I think, where like if you look closely, like you could see him on the boat, but you didn't. Like, you don't really have to look because he's there in the next page, like, he's on the boat.
Yeah.
But, like, in that far-out shot, you can see he's there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, not that Oda doesn't also make inconsistencies, as the SBS will point out, but...
Yeah.
Sometimes
he also does,
he's
like,
got
the
it.
little... he does do... Like, that's why I remember when Sanji was doing the distraction for Crocodile outside of Rain Base, I was actually looking around in the background shots to see if Sanji was there, because putting Sanji there would be a very Oda thing to do, because he's like, if he does something like that, he likes to include little details like, yeah, this character was always there, because he plans out things like that, and so it's always neat. Like there's always just a lot of details, and it's cool.
And then sometimes there'll just be random characters. Like the one time in the crowd shot at Alabasta, Mr. 3 was just there.
Yeah, just sneaking away, getting home free, while the rest of Brokeworks was getting arrested. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, Luffy escapes from the snake. He finds the wreckage of the Eneru fight. And Robin didn't get as wrecked, so she's able to explain what happened. And the danger of, Eneru's going to destroy Skypiea.
And now Luffy's got something to do because he wrecked his crew, and now Luffy's upset.
Yeah, he's got a direction. And he also has a mind-reading pal who can find Eneru.
See, that's why I would say that, like, she did a little more.
Yeah, well,
like, she had a little more of a purpose than, like, Rocky, because, like, she would... Like, if she wasn't there, how would Luffy have found them? Yeah, good luck with that, Luffy.
Yeah, that's, well, because, like, yeah, and she is, like, a plot device, but, like, I did a whole video on that. There's nothing wrong with plot devices. The question is, like, how much they add to the story, and, like, at least Isa has, like, a little motive of valuing the Vars, which, I also mentioned that back with Yama and Robin, where Yama doesn't value it, even though he owns it, and that's why Henny gets wrecked, so, yeah, he deserved it. So, there's, it's a little thing, but yeah, Rocky is just kind of, she's a woman, I guess. So, anyway, we do get a scene with Konis, sort of like, I actually just thought about this, because it's like, the thing with the Angel Beach Sky people is that, they have too much faith in their cruel god, like, he won't fuck us up, he won't destroy us, right? Like, because, there was, like, they've always been under this god, like, Konis says that, like, we all know that he has the power to cast us into despair, like, they're just sort of waiting for him, or hoping that he never does, and then here he is finally doing it, because, of course, he has the power, why wouldn't he? So, and that's also comparable to the Shandians, is that they also had too much faith in their traditions, so it's like you got that in both places. So, like I said, Jaya was faithlessness, and this arc is faith of that conversation, so, yeah, here it is again. So yeah, Konis, starts to evacuate everyone, or get the evacuation going. Meanwhile, Luffy reaches the Arc Maxim, and so he goes up to fight Eneru. Eneru blasts him with lightning, and Luffy's fine. Eneru blasts Luffy again. Luffy's fine, and then he punches Eneru. And
yeah, this was the good, like we talked about, like the reusing art and good comedic timing of it, like Luffy getting, hit by the lightning thing, and it's like, oh, you just dodged it, okay, and there's like the panel of the horse bird thing and the girl, and they're just like, oh no, he got attacked, and then it's like the same art again, only it's like adjusted a little, like they look a little more irritated or whatever, like it's like, oh no, Luffy, okay, no, he's fine again. And also you get the fucking the panel where he like goes up and like grabs Luffy and is like, okay, you're not dodging this, you are getting hit, and he's just fine. And there's this full, not a 2-page spread, but you get a full page of just Kami Eniru, just
legendary expression.
This is like, it's like Oda has done these goofy things before, like there's the Wapol one where it's like
the zoom.
The zoom.
Yes.
But even those are just like two little panels on like a bigger page. This is a full page just dedicated to this expression.
Well, that's what's
which
so
is
great about
pretty
it too,
good
because
because he's the character who, he's invincible, he's lightning, he's the god. So like he's developed this like reputation for himself in his head and like this ego. And like here's this guy who gets struck by like a maximum attack and it does nothing, and he's like, wait a minute, what? Like it's that first moment of realization that like, everything that he believed of himself is not necessarily true, because here's his natural enemy.
This whole god complex. Gonfor even said there's no gods, there's just humans, but like Eneru had no reason to believe that, because here this god just goes and stomps these humans like ants. Humans we've seen to be really powerful, But then Luffy, rejects all of his, build up for himself. All this build up we've seen of him like having able to hear beyond the island, able to revive himself from the dead, and Luffy just like ignores all of that and kicks him, and then so you get the expression, and it's just so perfect because it's like all that build up, and Eneru's just like all that god complex is just broken down like instantly in just like one little dude, and it's just so good. And the face, like the way that I like the way the eyebrows like arc up and like pull away some of the skin, like you can kind of see the way the skin. I noticed that this time for some reason, and then the running nose. And again, he hasn't made like goofy expressions at all. Like he's always been just kind of like smiling or angry, but they're all like normal expressions. And then this, he just goes beyond. Like this is his Super Saiyan 3, for even further beyond any expression in the series. Really, like it's just so over the top, and the fact that it's one page just really just drives it home. It's a memorable moment for a very good reason, because it's really good. Like it continues.
It sort of continues the general idea that I'd kind of posed before, that like the cool thing about Oda's art is like he can draw these cool looking characters and have them look sinister and badass and arrogant and whatnot, but then at the same time, like those same designs can look like this.
Yeah, he could do this, and it doesn't like ruin Eneru's character either. Like this one goofy moment doesn't somehow undercut what's come before, and he gives Luffy a good fight, and and with some really interesting, and creative stuff.
I think the only character who had. I think the only character who didn't really get a goofy expression like this was probably Crocodile, which I think is fine because, Alabasta was a pretty serious thing.
Right. I mean, there are other characters, like, I don't think, like, a few members of Broke Works probably didn't get anything, like Mr. One, but, like, as far as main villains go...
Well, yeah, I'm thinking more like main villains, because, like, a lot of them...
Craig and Kuro probably didn't either. Like, there's definitely been serious villains, but this is like... So I guess this is a serious villain who becomes a not serious villain for one glorious page, I guess.
Yeah.
Because he just doesn't know what to fucking make of this. It's just like, how is a man just, like, completely immune to his godly powers? So it's so good. So aside from that amazing face, did you have any thoughts on the general fight of Luffy versus Eneru?
This is where the whole, like, Eniru is doing just what is natural, where it kind of comes back into, now he's fighting his natural enemy,
yes.
where, I felt like I had an idea in my head about, like, certain characters in the series were relying on, like, things are miracles, things happen, because, the power of a god or a kami or whatever, but, like, here's the natural enemy for, the self-proclaimed god of Skypiea. And something to do with, fucking, damn it, I can't remember what it was now.
Because I was gonna say is like, again, like Eneru has so much faith in the person he's built himself up as. Of course, Luffy, the one with no preconceptions, just completely just stomps on that. And so yeah, there's that there. And they also have different... Oh, yeah, I guess I skipped over that. Shit, that was major for Nami. Because she's... Before... Or maybe it's after... Was it later? Or when Nami is rejecting Eneru. Yeah, I think that... Maybe that happened after Luffy fell.
It happens after this fight.
So, okay,
because Luffy...
I'll put it off. Because it's pretty important because it contrasts their ideas of adventure, which is what I was mentioning earlier about how the arc actually says something about adventure. But I'll get to that later. But yeah, Luffy and Eneru, and I also like again. Well, the thing about the God's natural enemy bit is that I've mentioned him on this podcast before because he's like got the only good One Piece videos that aren't mine. Mr. Morge has a video that's full of spoilers called God's Natural Enemy, and one thing he points out in that video that's not a spoiler that I thought was interesting is how One Piece is actually very similar to Journey to the West in a way that Dragon Ball was not. In that, basically, I guess the idea of Journey to the West is that Sun Wukong, he's a monkey who goes to the land of gods and wreaks havoc. And so what's sort of happening here is you have Luffy, a monkey, basically rejecting the gods. He's the natural enemy of a god, and that's definitely something we will see more of. But I just wanted to plant that idea. I mean, not as literally, but pretty almost as literally, just not like quite this literally. So, because yeah, that's what Luffy's doing. He's rejecting this god completely and utterly. Because one of the things I love about the fight is how he just comes up with some like him bouncing his fists off the walls to hit Eneru was really good. That was probably one of my favorite bits of the fight, just because it's so like, of course, it just makes sense with his powers, and the randomness goes around the mind reading. So I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
I feel like this also sort of reflects a bit on like the world of One Piece. Like we've talked about it before, how it seems like, oh, these things that happen, they just happen. They're just sort of like miracles in nature or whatever. But no, like Oda goes out of his way to like explain that these things have like a cause. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
I felt like I had an idea for like how that would tie into like the whole like because this arc involves like like religious stuff or like the idea of like religion believing in like
gotcha.
I don't quite know how to explain it, but I don't know. I feel like this Luffy being a natural enemy, like lightning and rubber not existing in this land of the gods.
Yeah.
So
it's there was nothing to beat Eneru here until Luffy arrived, kind of. I guess that's one thing, but go on.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know quite how to tie it all together yet, but
that's fine.
Stuff is there and it's interesting. And if someone else would point it out and like piece everything together, I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I just am not doing that at the moment.
Yep. But yeah, so another thing I like about the fight is well, I like how like Eneru is actually playing it smart because he realizes that he can't beat Luffy, so he just gets rid of Luffy. Like he doesn't try to like, I'm a god, I will defeat you. He's like, actually, I don't want to fuck with you right now. Like he's doing the smart thing that I don't like. And I just thought I just always like that moment just because. And again, it's Eneru being such a cunt. Like he's got really no honor to him. Like maybe not no honor, but he's above that kind of those kind of things. Like I also love the moment later where Usopp is reaching out to Nami, like Nami's riding by on the waiver to grab, and Usopp reaches his hand out to grab her, and Eneru doesn't blast them with lightning, he doesn't get in the way of Nami's waiver, he just pushes Usopp's hand down. Like, something about that really gets to me because it's just like, it's such a small thing, like it's smaller than than some of the things he could do, but at the same time, it's like, it's perfect because it's like just enough as well. And so like Eneru's like putting in just enough effort to fuck these guys over completely, but so something about that I really like. And this, I guess, is he's just getting rid of Luffy. So yeah. And there was also the bit where Luffy gave Nami the hat because Nami's like freaking out about everything, and Luffy's like, calm down, woman. So yeah, did you have anything else to say about the fighting?
Skypiea, more like Deathpiea, am I right? No, it was, yeah, this is a good fight. I liked it. I like how he just, gets rid of Luffy. Because he's, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's definitely like, usually there's the, oh no, I'm stronger, I'm invincible, ah!
Yeah.
But the thing about, Nami afterwards that was interesting in multiple ways.
Go ahead.
One of the thing that sort of interested me about that, you kind of talked about it a little earlier when we were talking about Robin. Mm-hmm. How and it also reflects like how Nami has changed and perhaps how other members of the Straw Hats have changed. How she says that I do have my goals, but where's the joy in that if there's no one to like share that with? Whereas like before, Nami was a very independent character. She wanted to do everything like herself, like back in Arlong.
Especially, yeah.
She was like, hey, don't help me. Stay out of this. You do not have to fight my fight because, I don't want to impose that on you. But now it's kind of... But now it's different because, like, she wants to share that. So, like, yes, she wants to accomplish her goals, but she's not going to throw people away to do that.
Mm-hmm. And, and one thing I found interesting about that is that, like, she's always been the doubter, and I think part of that is because, like, I don't think she gets the thrill of adventuring that the others do. Like, she's like, Luffy's like, oh, cool, weird animal, and Nami's always like, that's probably dangerous, let's fuck off. She doesn't have that adventure-loving heart. And I think this moment definitely shows that because, like, that's what Eneru's offering to her. Another grand adventure. Like, for a place even the Endless Farce is to Skypiea what Skypiea is to Jaya, pretty much. It's this legendary thing. And but Nami doesn't like to adventure, but the thing is, Eneru only wants to explore for, like, his benefits. He only cared about the gold because it helped him with his ship, and he wants to go up to this god land because he is God, and he doesn't care about that. Whereas Luffy wants to explore for the sake of adventure because he finds it exciting. But Nami doesn't find that exciting, but she does, like, connect, like, with the bonfire. Like, everyone else is, like, having this fun adventuring, and she's just enjoying things being with them, vicariously getting enjoyment from them. And that's what she really wants. Like, because there's also, like, I remember there's, like, a paper written on, I think it was based on, like, EverQuest 2 or something like that, about, like, the different types of gamers. But what I thought was interesting about that is that, like, there's gamers who want to explore the games they play, and gamers who want to achieve something. And that's kind of, like, the difference between Luffy and Nami. Nami's goal isn't exploration. She wants to achieve something. She wants to make a map of the world. Luffy kind of just wants to explore. Like, he wants to be Pirate King, so he does want to achieve something, but what he enjoys is exploration. So, like, but Nami's able to get the enjoyment of exploration from being with them, and so of course she doesn't actually care about Endless Farce because and so I just thought that was an interesting contrast between her and the adventure-loving idiots on the crew, so because she doesn't really want adventure, and that ties into that. I feel like this kind of caps off her whole arc, this thing with her doubt and her and now her, how that ties into adventure and how her feelings on it. So it's a good moment, and Nami's good. And some people think that the characters don't get meaningful character stuff after they're enjoying arcs, and I'm like, are you paying attention, motherfucker? Yeah, I just had to throw that in there.
See, I guess a thing that I had kind of realized in this arc about the characters, or like something I had been, I guess, thinking about, but it clicked a little more in this arc, was that they do get their backstories, and that like fleshes out, who they were, how they became who they are now. And like one thing I had originally thought before, like actually like reading this Skypiea thing, was that like I was trying to think of like who are my favorite characters in One Piece at present, and I don't know, like so, I guess it depends on how they're getting used, how they affect each arc. Like Nami had kind of gone into the background maybe a little more. I don't know, something about her, she just didn't have this like it felt like she had sort of changed. Like she didn't have the same sort of appeal that she had before, where she was like always kind of getting in, like she'd be getting in the way or whatever. But I guess that's less of like her character has, I don't know, like the interesting thing about her, that's not really like who she is anymore. Like she has grown, she has changed. Like she's not trying to screw over the Straw Hats every chance she gets like she used to, which in a way she loses that sort of distinctness, but like in place of that she is becoming like, she's part of the crew. She's got these stronger connections with them now. So
that's a good point, that the characters have to be less distinct in order to like fit in with the crew better. Because I can also think of one other particular character who I won't mention, but they've also changed in a way that does make them less distinct, but they are part of the crew now. So it's like, it's great that they fit in, but at the same time, they offer less to the uniqueness of their character, I suppose, in that way. So, but they also, in order to do that, they change. So it's like,
I mean, like there are still like base parts of their personalities that remain the same.
Of course, like Nami's manipulative and sneaky and conniving. Like, she's like, when they left the sacrifice altar, she was like, artifacts and treasure, like with berry signs in her eyes. So she's still Nami, but like she's not as Nami in the way that like she won't do it at a detriment to the crew, because now she's part of the crew for real. So yeah, I get what you mean.
And I guess that's also part of like my like that alters my perception of the characters. Is like, it depends what, like, they have their own base personality, so like that's more what I will be seeing of the character rather than like what their backstory. Like, I don't know, if the arc isn't focusing on them, then that's what you're going to see, is that personality. So for a character like Sanji, just as an example, probably not going to end up being one of my favorite, or at least like at the moment not one of my favorite characters, just because his base personality is kind of bleh for me. Like, okay. I don't know. Not to say that it's...
because after Baratier, you were thinking, like, man, Sanji's cool, and now you're just kind of like, Sanji, okay. So I just thought it was funny, but go on.
So I don't know, like, I guess it all depends on, like, what the arcs are doing with people.
Yeah, well, because I've definitely mentioned this before, but it's like, the series obviously can't focus on every character literally all the time. So it's like, and so like Nami, you know, she had some things in Alabasta with Vivi. You know, Little Garden, she was a hostage. Drum, she was sick. So it's like, but this arc's actually like exploring her character in bigger way, in the biggest way she's had been explored since Arlong, pretty much. So, and it's like, and obviously characters are gonna dip in and out of focus. Like Usopp, this was not Usopp's arc. Like, Chopper got character moments. Zoro got a fight where, you know, we're continuing to explore his ideas. Robin's, you know, around doing her thing. Usopp didn't really do much, but he got a moment on Jaya. He got some stuff on Alabasta. A Little Garden, of course, was huge for him. So it's like, obviously, like, everyone's gonna dip in and out of relevance, except Luffy, who's the main character. So he's always going to be relevant. So it's like, and again, it goes back to what I've talked about with Bleach and Hunter x Hunter, where it's like, if you enjoy one character more than others, and obviously you're going to be less engaged when the character is less important, or even just outright gone. So yeah. And of course, now you're mentioning characters transforming, which if they take away what you liked about them, then that's also gonna, or lessen what you liked about them, then that's also gonna change. So yeah, it's interesting with long running stories like that.
Now that you mention that though, maybe I'm trying to think. Did Zoro have a fight in Drum? But like for the most part, like no. Zoro is getting like a fight in each arc, which I think is interesting. Like he's been the Not the most fightiest character. Like, obviously Luffy gets the big battles, but Zoro tends to be pretty prevalent as well.
Yes. Like, Little Garden, he did get a little moment with connecting with it was Dory, it was Brogy. And, you know, when he tried to free himself from the wax. But other than that, like, he didn't do much. And Drum, he was just kind of dicking around training, and he didn't do much. So yeah, like those two arcs, he was kind of out of focus. But yeah, Alabasta got a fight. Most arcs in the East Blue, he got a fight. This one, he got another fight or two. So it's like, and he was there on Jaya. So it's like, yeah, and Zoro's in particular is of note because, like, again, with the what is a swordsman, like, he's a character who's mostly explored through fighting. So it's like, you know, a fight that Zoro doesn't get an arc that Zoro doesn't get a fight probably isn't doing that much for his character. So, but his goal is to be a better fighter. So, I mean, what do you expect, I suppose? But yeah, it's a thing. So, going back to the story, so yeah, Usopp and Sanji board the Maxim.
Listen, Usopp, if it's for Nami's life, I'm okay with, or if it's for Nami, I'm okay with sacrificing your life.
Fucking Sanji. And then the Shandians are evacuating as well. Luffy finds Isa, and he's ready to go back up. I like how Nami, that's another thing I liked, because it was moments earlier too, because Nami, like, understands the danger of Eneru more than any other character, because she knows lightning, she knows weather, and then you kind of see that here when she's, like, deflecting Eneru's lightning, which is only, like, it's a time killer for a while, as long as he's, like, not caring, but, yeah, I just thought it was interesting that, of course, like, Nami would value Eneru's, or, you know, take note of his power the most, because she uses lightning herself, so,
And I also thought it was interesting that she was able to, like, use her weapon to deflect it at all, which, like, because, like, so she might not be a very strong character, but in this moment, like, she's able to, for a moment, like, you know, fend off God, because, like, she just has that knowledge. So it's another instance where she's not getting stronger, but, like, she's able to do something. I felt like I was gonna say more there, but
it's similar to like what the reason Luffy is able to beat Eneru is that she has like this little thing that's kind of an advantage against Eneru, so she's able to like live, and not get fucking wrecked by lightning. But she's not able to actually fight him really at all. So, and also I want to say about the sequence, Usopp has a lot of really good gags in this part. Like I just said that this wasn't really Usopp's arc, but then he kind of comes and like I love when like the door opens and Enru looks over and he's like, "I'm sorry," and he's covering up his face. And then later one part that just gets me fucking
here.
rolled.
Wait, Sanji isn't here yet? I see. Slams the door and hides.
And then later the one that gets me every fucking time is when Eneru attacks him and Usopp like jumps out of the way and he like we see him like run head first into the railing. Like he jumps, he does like a flip in the air, then he hits his head on the railing and then he like fall just the way it's drawn with him being drawn just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times is just it's so stupid and I love it. Because he like backflips away from the lightning and he tries to do a twirl midair and then just clunk and he's just dead. Usopp fucking died. It's just so goofy. Oh my god.
Usopp voodoo.
Oh, with his
and it just does nothing.
It. You'll die. He almost kills Nami because I love how she's like for one reacting and Eneru doesn't care. Oh, it's so dumb.
I thought that it was made even funnier because like Eneru doesn't even use his lightning powers. He just goes up and smacks him.
Oh my god. And then you get the moment I mentioned earlier with Eneru stopping Usopp's hand. And then Sanji comes in. He gets Usopp to safety before taking a hit. And then Sanji's being a fucking cool boy. He's like, "Thanks for the light. Also, die, asshole." And then the ship just fucking like just shudders and starts to fall, and Eneru's like, "Ah, shit." Because see, that's like Sanji's. This is like kind of what I think has kind of come up before, but Sanji is very like he actually uses his brain, and so here he is. He's like, direct fighting against Eneru. I already got wrecked by this guy. Probably not the best move, but stopping his ship, would slow him down more than actually trying to fight him would. So it's like, yeah, Sanji's a good smart boy. Did you have anything else to say about the escape with Usopp coming to grab Sanji, and then we're getting into the climax?
I guess the way Usopp and Sanji were handled in this arc was kind of interesting, that they disappear for a good... I don't know. Like, this arc does... There was a point where I felt like maybe this arc was too long. Like, did it need to be as long as it was? But there's actually... I realize now that there's, like, a lot that happens, because, like, when they first get there, you have that, the crew gets separated, so Usopp and Sanji are with Luffy, and then another thing happens, and then Usopp and Sanji get taken out, so, like... They were in the arc, they were out of the arc, they were back in the arc, they're back out of it. Like, a lot of characters are moving around, doing things in this arc.
Yeah. And well, you mentioned the length. I'm pretty sure Skypiea is longer chapter-wise than Alabasta. Not the whole saga, but the whole Alabasta arc. So it's like definitely fair to note its length. Like I don't think there's like, and there are parts where it's like, but it's not like I don't think it's like too long. Because I'm not sure, like, where do you make cuts? Because a lot of it is, like, important in some way in setting up pieces, and a lot of those pieces lead to ideas, so it's, like, you can't just remove stuff easily. But it is longer, and, so, and it's a thing, so.
Yeah, I think our reading for this time is, like, a little shorter than our Alabasta stretch, but we did also cover a little bit in the last
Right, because I
episode.
didn't want this one to be too long, because it is longer than Alabasta, so, and Jaya was also short as it was, so,
yeah, and
I'm
that's
not doing
like
a fucking 5-hour discussion on Jaya and Skypiea. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because that's obviously like, even if you don't include Jaya, like Skypiea is probably longer than the Alabasta arc, like that section.
Yes. So.
But if you do, then yeah, it's way more.
So anyway, more pieces get moved into place. Everyone's evacuating. Eneru starts dropping lightning. Usopp rescued Sanji. Luffy meets everyone else, and he's gonna go up and fight Eneru. And yeah, stuff's happening, and we're getting into we're not quite getting to the climax yet, but what's up?
I said, and then it's Doomsday, lightning everywhere.
Ah, yes.
And that's another one of those like good spreads, because you just see this the big sky and all these lightning bolts striking down, and the Sinister Boy.
Yep. So, but then before we get into the climax, we have one really important flashback. That's actually really long too. Like this is almost like this might be the longest flashback so far. I think it's actually longer than Chopper's. Maybe so, it's definitely close. If it's not longer.
So
the
my opinion,
Kalgara flashback.
Like my reaction to this flashback was sort of interesting because like when it started, I was like, I do not care about this. Why are we cutting away at that point? Why? But I was like, it's probably important. And then by the end of the flashback, I was like, okay, yeah, that was important. I'm glad I read that.
Yeah, no.
So like I went from God, this is annoying to okay, that was important. That was enjoyable.
See, and for me, it's like this is honestly like one of the best flashbacks. Like it's really, I thought it was really good. Like even though it's with characters we don't fucking like see outside of the flashback, like it's just this completely like we know the characters, like we know their descendants, Wiper and Cricket, but yeah, it's these characters, and that's what's also kind of interesting about it, yeah, because it ends like tragically for these characters. Like Kagura is doomed to a life of fighting fruitlessly. Like I don't know if they lost Chandra in his lifetime, but they did lose it. Meanwhile, Noland gets executed as a fucking fool and a liar, and like that's it. That's the end of the flashback. So it does get, and with the idea of inherited will, it does get resolved positively with the during the rest of the arc. But for these characters specifically, it's still pretty fucking sad.
Yeah, so that is interesting because like I've memed in this episode a lot about characters like, oh, they're dead, oh, they're not.
These guys are dead.
So Oda, it's not that Oda can't tell like tragic stories. Because like this is a tragic story, which it is interesting within the narrative of One Piece, which is a very optimistic thing, and obviously, like you said, it does get resolved with the whole inherited will stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know,
and it's also kind of like just like the whole like the start of the arc is just so like people are just fucking dying left and right because of a fucking plague. Their solution is blood sacrifice. Like it's off to a really dark start. All things considered. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, not quite. That's not the very start, because first we see Kalgara fending off foreigners, and then we get Noland. Like, Noland's introduction, I think, is really interesting, because, like, here's this character, like, well, later on we see him cutting off the head of the snake, so he's actually, like, stronger than, like, Zoro at this point, like, maybe even Luffy, so he's like this really strong guy, but the rest of his crew is, like, East Blue civilian tier. Like, they're like, oh god, the Grand Line, it's so awful, we have no fucking clue what we're doing. And yet Noland's like this natural-born badass sailor who's just, like, chill the whole fucking time. And it's, like, this really interesting contrast. And there's also, a point later where he's like, we got permission from Marijoa to go, which is the capital of the world, to go into the Grand Line. So it's, like, it's interesting to see how sailing is, like, different from how it is now. Like, less people travel, and because less people are capable of it. So it's like 400 years ago. It's just like, yeah, of course that makes sense. It was 400 years ago. So it's pretty cool. Did you have anything to say about the setup to the flashback, or can we get into the actual stuff?
Let's go.
Yeah, so yeah, like I said, blood sacrifices. We get introduced to all these characters, like Seto, the Shandian kid, the sacrifice who's Kagura's daughter. I forget her name, because it probably doesn't matter. And yeah, everyone's just catching plague. Noland comes on. He's like, hey, what's going on the island? Cool. Then they recognize the symptoms, and then Noland stops the sacrifice. And, yeah. Did you have any thoughts about this earlier part, or shall I keep describing things?
Yeah, I'd say keep going, because this, like I said, I was sort of not interested in it at first. Yeah,
because I was definitely it touches on some interesting ideas, I think, and some very core ideas to the whole arc, really. But yeah, Noland disapproves of the sacrificial ceremony because it's senseless, and it is. Like they're not. They just think it's going to do something, but it's not. And Noland says that he'll be able to cure the plague. With his crew as hostage, he goes out to the forest. I like the conversation with the chief where he's like, I can't hear the voices of God, but I can hear the words of a wise man. And so But he finds the tree bark, makes the medicine, or gets what he needs for the medicine. But then as he's heading back, there's an earthquake, which for some reason I only just realized it's the knock-up stream hitting the bottom of the island, and slowly breaking it off. Because as we see it does fully break off later. I mean, it's not like I was like wondering why is this a random earthquake. But it actually kind of goes back to what Bellamy was saying of all characters, where it's like there's a scientific explanation for everything. Like Bellamy's like attitude is a response to this idea of blind tradition, but his response isn't ideal either because it's also destructive in a different way. Where it's like Bellamy just destroys everything that he doesn't care about, where tradition is like upholding this thing that should be recontextualized. Because that's what I also like about this flashback, because the idea it takes on tradition, and also the rest of the arc too, is also in line with my personal feelings on tradition, but I'll talk about that later. But yeah, so Nolan's stuck in the earth, and the village is dying, and we get a good conversation between the two, where I like how Nolan's like, he's like, what is it? Is this a divine judgment, or what? This god couldn't even kill me. Like he's just trapped. And Nolan does eventually convince Kagura as the snake attacks that he forces Kagura to act basically because he can save the village, but not alone apparently because he's stuck. So did you have anything to say, or like when were you starting to get invested? By now or a little later?
Well, I don't know, but by now I might have been getting okay, because there are some pretty... There are moments I like. Like, there's the page where he kills the snake, and he's like, tell me, what did I just kill? And he's like, a snake. He's like, no, I killed a god. I don't know. There was a line that Nolan said here, where he's like, your ritual is a slap in the faces of progress, and then he also says, like, are you that afraid of the gods? And I thought about Eneru's line about how, like, the people don't fear God, fear is God, and that's literally what this, and that's kind of what and Eneru's right, because what happens is, like, when, Noland, his fear of losing the village, exceeded his fear of the god, the snake, and, causality, the random things like the earthquake, Kagura kills the snake. He exceeds God. Like, once he loses the fear, there is no God, which is which is all you can also say is true of Luffy in a sense, because he doesn't give a shit. So once he has no fear of God, so he just deletes God by punching him in the face. So yeah. I thought that was an interesting connection when I realized, and I noticed the fear of God, because yeah, that's kind of what happens. Like, there's no more fear, so there's no more God. I killed God. I did it. But yeah, so Kagura kills a snake. The antidote gets made. I love this. I love the page with just like the sacrificial altar, like completely empty, the wood unburned, because it's like it's showing you that everything's fixed before we even see everyone again. So showing what it looked like before it got destroyed and abandoned.
Yes. And yep, and everything's cool now. And of course, the snake thing, like they see the snake that was eating that ate Luffy 400 years from now, and they're just like, it's a snake. They just start laughing. Like, and I like the observation that like Kagura has never made a friend with anyone, a Shandian, but he does make friend with Noland, and which that's important for a bit with Wiper that I'll mention later.
Foreshadowing.
Then Noland, they find I love this spread of the City of Gold in all its splendor. Like, when I reread it, I got chills. Like, it's just something about it, just the bell. It was really cool looking. And it's also really interesting to see this next to the earlier spread with Robin finding it, and see it in ruin. It's cool. So yeah, they see the poneglyph. Nolan's learning about this village. Oh yeah, and here's the panel with Noland introducing the pumpkin to the Shandians. Look at Kagura's face. He's just like, huh, pumpkin. Like, something about the way he's grabbing his chin made me laugh just now. Because he's such a he's so like serious normally, and he's just like, huh, look at that. And just a fun montage of all the, just again the exchanges of cultures, of exploring and adventure, and just like Noland's cool. And then suddenly there's been a change. The Shandians suddenly hate Noland. Why is that? Kagura's like, I'll fucking kill him. then they decide to finish their job and they'll move on. The one village girl then eventually comes to tell the Noland's crew what happened. They cut down these super special ancestor trees that, well, because they noticed the bell stopped ringing, because the bell was supposed to bring the spirits back so that they could find the trees and rest in the trees. But then, as we find out from Noland's crew, is that the trees were diseased and dead, and that was the cause of the plague, which is why they cut them down. But then Noland still doesn't ask for forgiveness, even though they explain it. But she goes back to the village to explain it, and they... and then, as they're sailing away, the bell's ringing, and my eyes get watery.
that whole part I like. Yeah, especially the part where Noland says, even if I did what I thought was right, I still should, there's no reason for them to forgive us because, we didn't talk to them beforehand about it, we just acted. So,
right.
It showed that, he doesn't completely reject their traditions, even if he feels like he did the right thing. So he doesn't expect forgiveness
because
for
the thing with the trees is they were dangerous, and if he stopped and explained it, it would have been fine. But they weren't literally the trees weren't killing people immediately. But with the human sacrifice, someone was about to die, and he wasn't about to let someone die in front of him. There's a difference, and yeah, you're right. He could have stopped and hey, these trees are deadly. We should probably cut them down. But He just assumed the villagers didn't know anything, so it was he just jumped the gun a bit, and that was wrong. And so, but they were fine with it in the end, of course, but it definitely was a little awkward. And then but what I also like about this moment is because what I mentioned tradition earlier, and I'm going to talk about that now. Because the thing with tradition is, a lot of traditions, make sense. The example I use in my video is the idea of, funerals and basically the idea of burying the dead. Dead, they rot and create a lot of diseases. So burying them makes sense because it makes them less dangerous. You can't just leave a body on the ground. So that necessity becomes a tradition of funerals, of remembrance, of, respecting the dead. So it's this is a tradition that actually makes sense to continue even regardless of whatever religious, because I've heard that we've seen there in the past they've dug up bodies with jewelry even from before civilization. So there's always been superstitions around the dead, and so it's a tradition that makes sense even in now. So what you have here with the bell is a tradition changing. At first it was to bring the souls of the dead back to their trees. They lost that tradition. It doesn't matter anymore. Now the bell is to bring, it's there for Noland, and then later again it gets recontextualized again. Because that's the thing with tradition, is if you hold on to a tradition too tightly, human sacrifices, it becomes senseless. There's no reason for it. And, I personally agree with that. I think traditions should be reevaluated and recontextualized, if you're going to continue them. A lot of holidays are just there for marketing, so who cares about Valentine's Day? Yeah, I went there. It's a bad tradition because it's just there to sell gift cards and flowers. You could appreciate your family any day. And, if some people take a lot from that, then great. Apparently there's also a lot of suicides and breakups on Valentine's Day, so maybe not. Wow, that got dark. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. So yeah, I thought it was an interesting idea that and that's because that's the whole thing with the arc too. Tradition, faith versus progress and doubt, so and it's good. It's cool. And this moment's really good. So yeah, anyway, Noland goes home, and his fantastic stories are, we know the grand line. They're totally within the bounds of reality. But the king is greedy. He wants the gold of El Dorado, and he organizes an adventure with only Noland. It's interesting to look back at that fairy tale story now recontextualized with the actual reality, because it was 1900 people died on that fairy tale story, but now we see it's it's because the king is an incompetent idiot. Noland's one crew made it there and back just fine because they're trained sailors. The king goes with a bunch of soldiers and everyone dies because no one fucking knew what they were doing. Of course. So, and then of course they get to the island and it's gone.
And then there's also the part about the testimony. Oh, he was a liar. Well, that's because it's someone who wasn't even on the crew. It's just some random nobody.
Yeah, right. and then his crew, and so basically like the truth got censored, and Noland was executed a liar, even though and to his dying breath he was trying to say that it was there, but it wasn't, and because it got knocked into the sky. And we see the flashback, we see the house separating the cliff right as the island gets knocked up into the sky, and it lands on Giant Jack, the beanstalk. The bell gets knocked to God knows where. The Sky Islanders hear it. God's like, hey, that must be for us. I'm God. I want that. And 400 years of war. Nice going, you fat fuck. I see you there with your cigar, like your hot shit, bitch. And yeah, that asshole started a lot of shit. And so yeah, that's basically where it ends. Noland's executed. Kalgara's, fighting for the rest of his life, however long that is. And 400 years later, they're all dead. So yeah, final thoughts on the Noland-Kalgara flashback.
Pretty good.
I agree.
It
Really
had a point. It wasn't bad.
Oh yeah, and I'm just noticing here in the volume inserts, I didn't notice them, but Panda Man was there 400 years ago. Good to know. Because there's a volume insert after that flashback of Panda Man in a crowd. I'm assuming that crowd's on Noland's crew.
Or there's one spot where he where Oda like recreates the little fantasy panel that he made way back with like the Noland picture book or whatever, and he recreates it with like actual Noland, and like there's Panda Man still there.
I didn't notice that. That's really good, because of course you noticed because you took special note of that panel. You're right, he is there 400 years ago. Holy shit.
So it's not just that Panda Man was there in the fictional tale, he was really there.
It wasn't just a fantasy, it was Panda Man is real. He's real in your hearts. He is omnipresent. So yeah, the flashback, of course, was being told to a younger Wiper. He was being told, so, and, the important thing there is that, like, the reason that, like, Kalgara wanted the bell back because it's reclaiming his tradition, but it's also, his history, but it's also there because to ring the bell is to connect, two friends from these two different worlds. And, even, like, Wiper's even asking him, like, if we ring the bell, will it reach Noland? And like, the fucking chief's about to fucking cry. But then, Wiper's sort of, like, what he kind of realizes is thinking about that now is that, like, because he's been cutting off the Blue Sea and basically everyone, he's just, Chandra. Like, they need to do it. But then, like, the whole point of the bell is a connection between two worlds, and he's been ignoring that. So it's like, and that's sort of the change, is he eventually just brings down Giant Jack to help the Blue Sea dwellers ring the bell for Noland's sake. He's no longer doing it for, him, his ancestors, his country. He's doing it just because it needs to be done, for the reasons that his ancestors wanted to do it, basically. So, yeah. It's
and you also know what I realized, that giant flashback was told within a flashback, and within that flashback were flashbacks, so there were flashbacks within a flashback within a flashback. Oda, stop!
We need to go deeper! How many layers of flashback deep can you get?
But what if this whole story is like the whole what My Hero Academia is doing or something, where it's like all being narrated by a character? So what if like all of One Piece is being told by a later Luffy, so it's all a flashback?
Dear Lord, what have we done? We opened a singularity. A flashback singularity.
Or what if we could take this further? What if it's a character, like, passing down the legacy of Luffy, so that the story Luffy told to someone, so it's flashback within a flag. I'll stop now.
I was going to say the same thing. Just, it's okay, Mathwiz. Oh, God.
It could happen, though.
So yeah, we are back to the present. Eneru is ruining everything, because he's an asshole.
No, seriously, though, Panda Man is everywhere, so Panda Man could be recalling the tale. Okay, I'm done.
Mathwiz, no, it's fine.
Panda Man was the protagonist all along.
So yeah, Luffy's still chasing after Eneru, then Nami's chasing after Luffy, and Eneru just fucking destroys Angel Beach, or Angel Island, just because he can. Like, that's the thing, like, in case you were doubting me when I said Eneru is, like, way stronger than anyone here, technically even Luffy, he just destroyed a whole island. Like, Crocodile's claim to fame is, like, drying up a courtyard. and using a giant bomb just to destroy like part of a city. Enel just destroyed a fucking island. Like it was,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mihawk can cut a ship in half, but can he cut an island in half?
Yeah, like if he can, this is actually now that you mention that, like this is the strongest display of power we've seen in this series, even above Mihawk. Like that's notable. I never thought about that. Like he just surpassed Mihawk as far as like what we've seen. Like again, I wouldn't say he's stronger than Mihawk because again now we're talking like the greatest swordsman in the world. But like as far as like feats go in the series thus far, yeah, Eneru's the strongest character we've seen do things. So yeah. So that's definitely pretty notable. But yeah, Luffy and Nami meet, and they decide, and like Luffy, now that he knows about the, where the bell is, like he's decided, like like Enel said, everything's focused on the bell. So he wants to ring it. So for Old Man Cricket and the monkeys. So he's got a goal. And yeah, so they in order to get to Enel though, they need to have the beanstalk cut down, and I guess I already kind of talked about the big character moment that comes with that with Wiper. So, there's a gag with Usopp where he's using exploding stars, and as always, he slips a rubber band in there.
Yeah, it's just Usopp.
Continual running gag. But yeah, so Wiper brings down the beanstalk. Luffy and Nami are heading up. They make the jump. Oh yeah, and there's a bit about because like Enel pretty easily defeated the destroyed Angel Island because it's clouds, but the Earth is stronger. That was a neat little, because I mean it's it's Earth, it's meant to take lightning. So and this also makes Gonfor realize just how like important it is, because it's like if he had any doubts before, it's like of course we have no right to claim ownership of this. It's special. So which of course leads to the ending where everyone lives on the upper yard now. So yeah.
Although because it is the land and because Enel can't actually destroy the Earth, then maybe he hasn't really, achieved the feat of cutting an island in half. So maybe he, as far as the power scaling is concerned, maybe he's not actually as strong as...
Well, to be fair, Mihawk hasn't actually cut an island. Could he? Maybe. We'll find out one day. I don't know. Maybe if Mihawk does something. But yeah. So, Luffy destroys the cloud, because
he's got the golden ball and it conducts the electricity, and because he's rubber, it doesn't kill him.
Right, that's the best part. It's like completely on accident, because Enel gave, like, there's something karmic about it too, because Enel gave him the gold ball with which Luffy just destroyed the cloud. So nice fucking going, Enel, you dipshit. And so, what did you think about the final fight? The final part of the fight? Because I think it's interesting because Nami's helping. That's pretty unusual.
Yeah. This would be... Like, I'd be interested to see how this is animated, because, like, there's the thing of, like, Luffy jumping, and then the attack, and then Luffy, like, jumps off the spear, and then, like, shoots the ball thing, so I'm like, how...
Well, he like, falls down and, like, grabs a cloud, and that sends him back into the ball, too, or back down to it, too.
Oh, yeah, that's right, that happens.
So, but, yeah, I mean, I also remember they didn't give it music, and they kind of stretched parts of it out, so I remember it not being as satisfying. Because in the anime with Crocodile, they actually play, like, fucking Dvorak's 4th Symphony from the New World. So they play, like, classical music as Luffy finishes off Crocodile, so it's really cool. But in this one, they use silence because it makes the bell stand out a bit more. Yeah, but at the same time, like, there was maybe a bit too much silence from my memory. Maybe it's okay rewatching it. I don't know. Because it was definitely a bit drawn out. I remember feeling it was a bit drawn out at the time. So, I don't know how I feel about it now, though. I just read the manga. Fuck it. Manga's great. But, like, the moment of Luffy ringing the bell is so cathartic, because not only is he beating Enel, but he's also, like, capping off, like, 400 years of fucking, build-up, and, he's ringing the bell, he's sounding out to Noland, and then the next chapter we see Noland Cricket on the ground, and they're talking about how, like, now they have definitive proof of the Sky Island because of the shadows, the giant monsters that you were wondering about. Turn out they're it's just shadows of the Sky People, and so now they have definitive proof that Noland wasn't a liar, because now the gold bell has been rung. They have shadows, and there's the big fucking page with Luffy's shadow, and
yes, like this moment has, like, it's, like, such a huge payoff through, like, the paneling, because you get, like, the page of Luffy doing the attack and striking down Eneru, and then you get the big panel of like this is all the build up, like the people and all the history and whatnot, and then the actual hitting of the bell, and then the big sky panel, and then you get the one with Luffy's reflection and
Yeah, it's like this whole like, and the whole Sky Island, like, we're just like ignored by the blue seas, like they don't exist, but the bell like is like we're fucking here, so it's like so it's so good. And then just like again the weight from like Wiper and Cricket and their histories that with Noland-Kalgara, it's really fucking good. Well, also oh that's right, I wrote down because so in one punch Luffy not only beat Eneru and put a closure on 400 years of mystery, but he also beat Bellamy again, because Bellamy was like, there's no Sky Island, and Luffy just like proved that there was. So he beat Bellamy in 2 punches. This one ideologically, and last one just physically. So rest in peace, motherfucker. He didn't even punch Bellamy, and he beat him with a punch. How'd that even happen?
No, I really like this spread of, you know, the 2-page spread of, well, I mean, there are the reactions as well, but Luffy in the sky and the pose, it's that's so good. And plus it calls back to the thing earlier, the question I asked in the previous episode,
yes.
like what are these these giant monster shadow things? Well, they're sky people. It's the reflections.
Yes. Well, I was wondering if you were going to piece that together rereading, because we get introduced to winged people. I don't know if we saw a lot of Shandians with their spears, but I was wondering, because that's who they would have been, Shandians with their spears and wings.
The answer is no. I did not piece that together until it was spelled out in my face.
No, it's fine. I don't know when I would have connected that myself. I just know because I've gone through the series so many times. But yeah, it's so it's so cathartic. Like, this is why Skypiea is still really great, even though there are slow parts, because the climax and the ending is just so fucking good. Like, I can't. It's just so good.
Now, there's one part about this ending that kind of confuses me. Maybe I'm just not understanding it properly. But there's the little shot of Eneru going down with the ship. He sinks into the clouds, and he's a devil fruit user, so that would mean that he drowns. But we see him later. I'm
wondering if like this. Yeah, the ship goes down, but then it comes back up somehow. Yeah, that kind of just happens off screen, and you're just kind of supposed to go with it, I guess. I don't. Yeah, no, I agree. Because that's the thing is he's following through the white sea, so I guess on the white sea above, because there's
he fell through, because it's not like it's a bottomless sea.
Right. Like, because that, as we find out, like everyone just fell through the white sea and landed in the white sea below. So Eneru, I guess Maxim just regained, it's regained its stability in that area, and then he was able to not die. So yeah. That's just
I guess I can accept that. I guess that's fine.
And I guess we can get on that now, because like everyone's like recovering, pulling up their shorts, and then the Straw Hats are talking, and Conus is remembering his dad, who sacrificed himself to protect her, and he's there. It's a dumb gag.
See, I like how he just appears, but then at the same time, I'm like, he's alive. Why the big dramatic sacrifice if he? Yeah.
I mean, like, in that moment's defense, like, yeah, it was definitely like she's mentioning his death right here, but like compare that to Pell, it's nowhere nearly as dramatic, but it is still like, so it's like.
That's the thing with like Skypiea is I have like there are a lot of moments that are like really dramatic, like, oh, this character got electrocuted and it's the show of force by Eneru and it's set up to the Wiper thing, but then like he's alive, and like I don't know, like none of it really has like these are more like whichever one of the giants it was that died, where it's like, okay, this isn't a super major character, so their death or lack thereof doesn't really bother me on like a narrative level, because like it doesn't change how I feel about their characters. But then at the same time, there's so many, I feel like there's so many instances in this arc in particular where, and granted a lot of it can be explained away by falling through to the White Sea, which is fine.
Yeah, like they explain it and it's like not that bad, but go ahead.
But like this is like in this arc you have this one character like destroying entire like islands, and like there are so many instances of like people getting shot down, and it's like, oh, they're, well, not literally shot, but you know what I mean. So I don't know, like, I am simultaneously, like, not super offended that everybody lived, because, like, I kind of expected it, because, this is One Piece.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I also feel, like, a little cheated. I don't know.
Yeah, no, see, well, because, like, it's weird, because, like, I already know, so I, like, there's no emotions for me to invest, because it is kind of cheap. He's asking you to invest these emotions, and he's not following through on that. Like, so I guess, like, I mean, you could say that, like, it takes away from Eneru's godliness because he didn't do anything. He's like, he didn't, like, kill all these people even though he was trying so hard. So I guess, is that satisfying enough? Because that's the other thing, is, like, it doesn't quite matter. I
mean, because, like, his attack still has an effect on, like, the environment, because, like, that land is gone, like, it fell through the sea, like, there's nothing there, so, like, it does change how they have to... And that leads to something important as now that the Sky Islanders and the Shandians now have to, unite on that land, and, get over their past differences, and that's what I mentioned earlier, is how, like, the conflict of the land was 400 years ago. It's technically nobody's, like, everyone has lived... Like, the Shandians have never lived on that land, while some of the Sky people actually did, so it doesn't really, like, it doesn't, you could argue that, well, I guess it goes into weird colonialism things, but, like, yeah, so it's like, but they both, and they both are able to coexist on it, so, yeah, because they both do need it. They don't have anywhere else now, but back to the character thing, it's like, yeah, it's definitely not satisfying. Like, I personally... never cared in the first place because they're such minor characters. Yeah.
But I absolutely understand someone feeling it's cheap, and because it does take away from Eneru a bit, and maybe that's the point. Maybe it's maybe that doesn't work for the series. So, yeah, I'm not gonna, like, it's not like with Pell, where it's like I think it actively works against the themes of the arc. This kind of doesn't as much, because if there's any, like, idea of the arc it's in conflict with, it actually adds to Eneru not being a god, because he's not that, it takes away from that. But then, like, at the same time, it is unsatisfying, and I can definitely understand why it might be that way to some. So, yeah, so I personally don't mind.
I mean, because like I said before, there is also the flashback, which shows, like, the Nolan flashback, which does show that Oda can tell tragic stories. So I don't know.
Right, and I guess there's also the tone thing. Like, did he? Well, because, like, with Brogy and Dory, it's like if Dory actually died, I think that would be a negative for the ideas of the arc. With Pell, him being alive is a negative for the themes of the arc. So it's like you have an instance where a character should have lived, and an instance where a character shouldn't have lived. But here, it kind of, like, I don't think it really adds enough.
Yeah, really. I don't feel like it does a whole lot to change, like, the meaning of the arc, like whether these characters live or die. It
kind of doesn't matter. So and in that way, it might even become more unsatisfying. So I'd plant this in the middle, like maybe leaning towards Pell a bit. Because, again, I don't care. I don't think it's as bad as Pell at all. Because Pell's, like the worst thing in One Piece. Pell being alive is, like, the most frustrating thing about the entire series for me. But, like, but again, it's not like Dory, where it's like, yeah, he didn't die. But, like, it also makes sense within the rules of the world because of dual weapons. And also him being dead would take away from the ideas of the arc, which I don't think is the case here. It's not that meaningful that these characters are alive. Like, again, there's kind of a thing with Eneru, but it's not major. So yeah, it's not great is my how I'd finish off.
I guess for me, the word is still out on how I feel about how Oda handles death. I guess I'll have to wait and see
mixed.
If a character, like, if a major character actually does die, like, maybe that will change my opinion overall, like, on whether or not, I don't know. Like,
I'll definitely
how
give
I feel
my
like
thoughts
it's
eventually,
handled.
because it's interesting to talk about, like, One Piece in that vein, because it's like it's so mixed, because there's things that, like, with Pell, where I think it's legitimately bad, but then there's things I do, like, with the flashbacks, sure, he introduces characters to kill them off, but it's always for, like, Belmare, Hiruluk, these are some of the most emotional moments in the series for some people, and they resonate, so it's like, it's not like he can't kill characters,
Somehow my audio disappeared here for a moment.
Yes, that was like a running joke for One Piece for so long. Like, nobody dies in One Piece except in flashbacks, because you had stuff like this, And Pell especially is the one people should be frustrated about, especially and I guess one of the reasons I don't mind this as much is because Paglia just showing up again is kind of funny, but is that enough? Probably not. But it's one of the reasons that I'm not frustrated by this as much as with Pell, even though it's not great. So anyway, so yeah, Eneru, he's beaten, but he's still capable, his ship still works, and he's like, hey, I'm going to the fucking endless farce, which is the moon. He goes to the moon. The end. Eneru went to the moon. That's where the real One Piece is. Oh shit, wait, did I just spoil everything? I don't know. Oh god, if One Piece actually goes to space, I'm gonna fucking shoot myself. One Piece in space! Oh dear god.
There's a sea in space. It's like there were the Milky Dials. There's the Milky Way. That's there you go. One Piece in space. It can happen. There's a sea in the outer space.
Yep. So moving on, you get another moment where it's another cathartic moment where it's Wiper wakes up and he's like, oh shit, what's going on? And the Gunfar and the chief are like, yeah, no one wants to fight. Everyone's just partying. They all dealt with this unified against this conflict. The conflict's over, and yeah, even the fucking snake is dancing. It's cool. It's just the parties are always fun. And I'm also looking at some of these panels, and you got Zoro and Braham, even though they were just fighting a few hours ago, now they're bros. So yeah. Any final thoughts on the climax of Skypiea before we go into the last of the wind down? Because there's a couple more things to talk about.
I can't believe that this is the end of the story. I mean, chapter 302 is titled Finale. I can't believe One Piece ended here, and the whole time Oda's been writing the sequel on E-Piece. Nobody told me this. It's the secret that nobody has ever told anyone, the secret of One Piece.
Yes, the One Piece Nen Show is now over. We are now starting N.A.Piece, the sequel series. No, you actually just reminded me because Shonen Jump, when they still had a physical magazine, English Shonen Jump, I should specify, that existed. They actually when they got to Alabasta, they actually reverted the chapters, so it would be Alabasta chapter 1, Alabasta chapter 50 or whatever, because I guess the reason was that they feared that the chapter count was too much of a off-putting for people. People weren't actually reading the magazine for One Piece unless they already were. So it's they reverted the chapters to try and get more people to read One Piece, I guess.
Oh no! Oh no! That'd be even more infuriating than the Dragon Ball Z split, where it's here's Dragon Ball chapter 200 and something, but no, it's actually Dragon Ball Z chapter 7. Blah.
So yeah, moving on, the party was over, everyone had a blast, everything's cool. Then they wake up in the morning and Luffy's like, we're gonna steal the gold and run, because Luffy is actually a criminal. He was a devious criminal the whole time. And that's actually kind of notable because he's actually planning on stealing from people, but then I think it's funny how it gets resolved. Did you have a thought on that, or shall we skip to Robin, because she's got some more important business?
Well, no, because they're pirates, so it makes sense.
Yeah, but what's funny about it is that he doesn't actually steal the gold from anywhere, except he steals it from the snake. It was gold that basically didn't exist to the Sky people anyway, because it was in the belly of a snake, and Luffy just steals it. So he's not even doing anything criminal. He's stealing gold that technically belongs to them, but he's stealing it from a place no one else would go into. And then, when they come back with the giant pillar of gold, they're like, run away! I think it's funny that, Luffy's actually doing a crime here, but it's, it's presented in a way that almost decriminalizes it. Which is, because, again, he's the main character, so he has to be likable. He can't actually do anything bad. So I just always thought that was funny how it's and because of course the joke is that they were going to give them more gold. They were going to give them this giant solid golden pillar that would have made them rich. That's the amount of gold there is fucking insane, and they just run away because they think it's a cannon, and it's so stupid.
Well, yeah, because I thought it was sort of Usopp sort of explains it as well. It seemed like they kind of had this whole reputation as pirates thing, where it's we got to do this thing, and Luffy or not Luffy, Usopp is like, I ask you, is there any way these proud pirates who've risked their lives to come all the way to the Sky Island are just gonna leave empty-handed? And they just run. So like, their pride is pirates or something.
Right, not like they could really transport the giant gold pillar back anyway, but it's still pretty good. And then, before that, in between that rather, Robin finally reads the poneglyph that's on the bell and learns about another ancient weapon, and she's just like, fuck, I don't want to know about the ancient weapons. She wants to know about the true history. And then they point out another set of carvings in the same language as the poneglyph, talking about, it's a message by Gold Roger. So, in other words, he or someone near him was able to like translate and write in this ancient language as well. And that's like, if you weren't like, oh yeah, the Straw Hats are, like Robin's the only one who cares about the actual story. Like, there it is. There she is making a connection with Roger. Like, she's following the same path, sort of. Because he even says, like, I guide this document to its end, whatever that means. So, did you have any comments on this? Or, I had one more thing to say, but if you wanted to weigh in.
No, that was, again, like, me feeling like Robin was one of the more focal characters of this arc. Like, this is the payoff to, like, she's here looking for stuff. The Pirate King.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Though I also, like, well, because to go back to the tradition element, because they had this tradition of, protecting the bell, protecting the poneglyph, which, again, it has, like, actual, like, merit of protecting their home, but then here they are, because they kept that tradition, like, like, the sacrificial human, like, that was a tradition that needed to be thrown away, because it was trash, but here's a tradition that was, the document was guided to its end. This is probably going to lead to something else, because they followed that tradition. Because they valued the bell so much, it became notable, and Robin was able to find it, so, it's important. So yeah, just another addition to that idea, because again, there is no extreme. It's not saying tradition is bad or faith is bad. It's saying it's something in the middle. Because again, it's very it's very Eastern in that way. So yeah, moving on. Everyone's
also,
like,
Monkey D. Luffy. D. Oh, the letter of his name. That can't be a coincidence. I wonder what that means.
Because Gonfor knows Roger too. Gold D. Roger. Because that's the thing. He went by Gold D. Roger. So it was only the bounty posters that said Gold Roger. So I wonder why the D. It keeps coming up. The characters, they know things. So yeah, but the fighting is over. The Shandarans are, they're not going to let the light be extinguished again. They decide to name, everyone's like fine with Gonfar being God. I like how he's just like, I just want to fucking tend to my pumpkin patch. Like, he doesn't want to deal with this shit, but no, he's God now. So yeah, but everything's cool.
I also like when they are running away, there's like the little cutaway to Robin, and she's just got that, I don't know, just having fun with the crew. It's good.
Yeah, she's smiling now. She's having so much fun with these fucking losers. But yeah, so Konis and Pagia help these thieving monsters escape. And they drop off a cliff. They die. The end. And he does the eye popping out thing again.
Only with everyone this time.
Yeah, well, except Robin and. Well, because like going back to like what I was saying about Enru, about how like he never really had a goofy expression until that one big page, and Robin's been the same way. Like, I just wanted to make that, because she's not. You don't see her with her eyes true. Out. She's not there to make that goofy expression. Like, she's definitely on the ship. They didn't leave her in the sky. That would be horrible. But she's deliberately avoided.
The eyes even pop out of the ship.
Yes, the poor.
I didn't notice that.
Mary has his eyes pop out. The poor thing. He wasn't ready for that, but Robin doesn't. So yeah. But yeah, they get rescued by a balloon octopus, and the bell is rung. The tradition has changed once again, because now Noland already found it, but they're gonna keep. They're gonna keep bringing it to the Sky Island is there, it sort of as memory of like the whole conflict with Luffy trying to find it, so now more explorers can find it more, get there again. So yeah, it's good, and that's it. That's the end of Skypiea. So final thoughts on the Jaya and Skypiea.
Yeah, not as good as Alabasta. I probably didn't enjoy Skypiea as much as Arlong either.
Okay.
But it was pretty good by the end. Like the experience of reading it, it was a little iffy, a little rocky at times, but by the end I feel satisfied. I feel like most, if not everything,
like,
kind of played it into...
Like, Jaya is really great, and the second half, and especially the climax and flashback of Skypiea are fucking amazing. Like, the ringing of the bell is just so fucking good. Especially, like, when I reread the arc last time, like... See, that's the thing with me, like, I'm still enjoying it, but, like... So, yeah, definitely, like, I think I would put it between... Arlong and Alabasta. I do think I enjoyed it a little more than Arlong, just because it had like so much going on, like ideas wise, that's really interesting to dig into, and I did notice more stuff even now this time, just not as much, but like it did drop for me. Like before it was like my second favorite arc after the next one, and now it's like I guess it would be possibly fifth depending on how I rank some of my later arcs.
Yeah, I definitely would say that like Skypiea is more thematically rich than
there's
Arlong.
so much going on. But it suffers some slow parts, so I understand like it not being as enjoyable. But there's a lot of ideas here and a lot to say with them. So I thought like the ideas and conflicts were really interesting, and so it's cool. But yeah, so that's kind of how I place it right now. Alabasta, then Skypiea, then Arlong, and then the rest, as we've already discussed. So, which is surprising for me, because before I think I had Alabasta at my fifth favorite, and Skypiea as my second, and now that's flipped on its head. So, yeah. Did you have any more thoughts, or...?
No, I think that was it.
Yeah. So yeah, next time we're a shorter stretch, but with some important stuff. And some fun stuff. We're starting Water 7, which is this arc. It's more of a saga divided into 3 arcs. We're covering it in 3 episodes though, just kind of mixing and matching. Like I think, you'll see. You'll see how it goes. But we're reading chapters 303 to 340. So that's. I was very deliberate with where I placed these chapter divides. So I'm just gonna say. I'm really excited for these next episodes because this is like the Water 7 and Enies Lobby is like basically my favorite part of the story, is what I've said in the past. But unlike Skypiea, I haven't reread it. So with Skypiea, like, yeah, tradition and faith and doubt, like I'm talking about it, but like I already knew that, you know, where it's like with Alabasta and like Trust, I had to dig into it and like, oh yeah, there it is. You know, I'd read the arc, but I didn't know about the ideas. Like I hadn't really gotten the ideas, or at least not enough to explain them. So I'm wondering like what I have to say about Water 7 and Enies Lobby, because in the past I've said it's my favorite arc for a few reasons, and I don't know, I think we're getting some more cool stuff. So and
yeah, I've seen some comments saying like, oh, Mathwiz is going to be so excited, you know, or people being excited for me to read Enies Lobby. So
yeah, the best part is like there's other arcs later that are like contenders for, like, here's the thing, like Alabasta and Skypiea were good, but I could also see them being like now number 4 and 5 in my arc rankings. So that's at least 3 arcs upcoming that I would put above what we've read so far. So I don't know, maybe I'm getting your expectations too high. Like I've also said Skypiea was like my second favorite arc, and now it's lower. So who knows?
I don't know. I wouldn't say I was disappointed by Skypiea. Not like I had like super high hopes going into it. Like I don't know. Like I had said, I had seen your Skypiea video, but that was a year ago. I don't even remember what was.
Well, I know it's Skypiea's best guy ever's favorite arc, and I absolutely understand why. Because these ideas are super. Like he talks about the similar ideas of progress and science. And, you know, adventure, like, so it's like, I understand why the ideas connect with him, and so of course it's his favorite arc. Maybe he also hasn't read it in a while, and doesn't remember the slow parts, or some of the weaker fights. I don't know. I don't know best guy ever. I just know of him. So, yeah. But Skypiea is definitely good. Like, that's the thing. It's like, you're here saying, like, it's still, like, your top 3 arcs, would you say? Like, it would probably, same as me, just swapping Arlong for Skypiea and Jaya?
Yeah, I've been slack, and I still haven't officially ranked them, but off the top of my head, I'm thinking it would be Alabasta, and then, Arlong, and then Skypiea, maybe?
Well, I'm trying to, like, for me, the next one, so would you put a drum above Skypiea?
Probably not.
Because
Probably
that's
not.
like the next best arc. Drum or Baratie, would you put either of those above Skypiea? Because I can't think of any arc you've liked more than that set.
No, I guess not.
Yeah, so I think, but like, and again, like, I hopefully this idea has died down in the fan base, but people think Skypiea is like useless or it's filler or it doesn't matter, and it's like, in here, like, god damn it. To be fair, the anime probably like drags it out a bit more than it needed to, and it was already a slow arc as it was, or maybe this length felt worse in the anime, so I don't know, maybe part of it just comes from the anime perspective of it too. And again, like I said before, I think this was the first arc people were reading weekly, so which would have also made it feel slower. So, I kind of understand why people don't care for Skypiea as much, but at the same time, it's fucking good. So shut up.
Yeah, I'd say Skypiea and Drum are probably close because I don't remember really like Skypiea. The act of reading it was maybe a little less enjoyable than Drum, but like there are good ideas here that I think might elevate it.
So yeah, that's it. We're done. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you in 2 weeks for chapters up to 340. So, shorter stretch, but there's some stuff I'm gonna be curious about, like how you feel about it, and then and some stuff like for reasons that because there is another arc that people aren't as fond of that I think is good, and we will talk about it next time. So yeah, thank you for listening as usual. Goodbye.